Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I'm joined by Unknown Sage.
Indeed.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm here. Yeah.
Are you? Are you?
I don't know.
Are you with me, Lenny?
Maybe not.
All right.
Perhaps I'm not really real after all.
We have fun stuff, and obviously this comes out late to all
Do we?
other news. I mean, we do, yeah. We've done a decent amount of research on this to annoyance of both of us.
So is it fun? I am not sure that qualifies.
Fun. But yes, we have some content that will probably be 3 or 4 days late to the party that everybody else already covered, but hopefully you'll enjoy stuff because we're doing this on Halloween. Is recording daytime for us, but it's not going to be released until Sunday.
Lovely.
Mostly the reason we don't do it, I mean, we might as well just do live streams, but I need videos because the stupid algorithm wants videos, and this is my video. Otherwise, I would just do live streams, and we could just shoot the breeze, and people could come in, we could chat and do all the fun stuff, and that'd be all we needed to do.
So why not do them, but then also make them into a video?
Because it takes a long time to make videos, especially when things change so fast. Even if I make those videos are going to be long anyway.
No, I mean, make the live stream the video.
Because I would have it posted twice.
So?
That would be very confusing for people watching the videos. I mean, I've tried making like 5-minute videos, but it always just takes so long to explain what's going on in the video that it's just impossible to do. I really wish I could do it. If I ever get an editor, though, I could just pump out videos like it's a manufacturing plant, but here we are. So, we have, boys and girls, some news about Dragon Age Veilguard and its release day. So that's gonna be fun.
Well, I guess news is a big word. It's more just stuff you can look up on the internet. Really
I mean,
easily.
that means there's literally no news ever because you can always find it on the internet. That would be kind of redundant. So it's news because you're hearing it first here, folks. You're hearing it first 4 days late.
Wow.
That's too hot now. Anyway, we have it'd be like 4 days because it's Thursday.
So
Friday,
it's
Saturday,
essentially
Sunday,
old news by then.
Technically, yes, but it's fresh news as it's accurate as of the date that we recorded. So there's that. We have some Dragon Age Veilguard. Let me see if I can flip and pull it up because I'm semi-retarded. That's the button. That's the button, man. I did want to start out with a bit of the news. And then we'll go to that. I also have to pull up. It's just hard to do without actually using normal software.
So I thought you said I shouldn't watch this.
Not until we got here,
because it,
obviously.
hurts my eyes or something.
Well, yes, I also want your eyes to get gouged out by now. So
yikes.
Let me enter it in to the video. So we're gonna switch over to here. So much stuff. All right. That should hopefully connect us up. There it is. It took a second. All right. So for all of you who are not aware, Dragon Age has some kind of stupid stuff in it. Topics and stuff that really shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the actual story. It has nothing to do with...
To be fair, though, there's been a lot of crazy stuff already out there that's been shown during the previews.
This is the worst, I think, that I've seen so far.
Is it?
Yes. You're about to see why.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll go ahead and play it.
Pounding that snake's nose. She's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties. I was so proud. Oh, Shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh. Okay.
A barf?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv.
I would point out she only did like 3 of them.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours. Huh. Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants. And out of them too.
Any reason you can't just apologise?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barb,
So how's pulling a barb?
makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them. Oh, you know, I didn't mean it right. I'd never do that on purpose. They feel so bad about it that it's on everyone else to smooth it over and make them feel better.
So how is this not dramatic, though?
Oh, okay. Yes, some people might do that.
Pulling a barb puts it on the person
I'm
who
pretty sure
screwed
that's
up.
Felicia
They
Day
made the
voice
mess, they
acting for
fix
the
it,
Asian lady, which
done.
is funny because she's the redhead, not Asian at all. So yeah.
So interesting how it's not the actual person pointing this out, but a random bystander.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sounds
So
vaguely
here's
familiar.
the funny part. Not only does she not do 10 push-ups, it's like 3. She also was talking the entire time like she wasn't, which is very immersive breaking. I mean, the voice actor should have just gotten down and done 10, and then maybe that would have made more sense of how she did it. That's called method acting. But if she wasn't, at least she could
thought
try
they didn't
making
do
it
that anymore,
sound
right?
like it. I mean, not lazy Western actors, no. But yeah, I think Felicia Day's playing the Asian lady with pointy ears, and it's just like, but you ain't Asian. I thought the rules was you had to be Asian to play an Asian person. So why aren't you following the rules?
No comment.
Exactly. Also, the pirate lady who was talking the most, her boobs are way bigger in Inquisition or Dragon Age 2, whichever one she was in. I don't even remember. They were bigger and they shrunk them.
Sure. Can't comment on that.
Apparently, I think the size they said was from like a D to like a B, if not an A. In that time frame. Also, the graphics look atrocious.
I thought that was just the video quality here.
Nope, that's the game quality.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. But pulling a barv.
Yeah, what a name.
It's supposed to. Well, I mean, making up a name, a barb.
Yeah,
is something
sure.
I would probably call a
go
barb
for it.
something when I hear something I don't like and I vomit out the side. That would
Yeah.
be considered a barb.
Same.
But in terms of like, okay, somebody has a pronoun and you use the wrong pronoun. So you go do 10 push-ups, drawing everyone's eyes to you and away from them.
Yeah.
That's not making it about you somehow, miraculously.
Wait a minute. And also, while doing it, you're explaining your own culture. I think that it's culture.
Well,
right?
you're explaining that this is how we do things.
Mhm.
Now, put it this way: if we were, because it seems like they're trying to train the gamers to do this, which is hilarious because most gamers are not fit enough to do 10 push-ups.
Exactly.
at
That's why
this
they
rate.
only did 3, right?
So if they do, that means every time you come by somebody's like super muscular or something, what they're doing is they're just intentionally saying the wrong pronouns all the time. It's like shaming people who are really muscular because they're always apologizing to these trans people or pronoun peoples or whatever because they're always having to work out. And it's like, wait, so you're saying I can insult people and work out at the same time? It's like, what?
Yeah.
That sounds like a
nuts.
win-win.
That's not a bad deal, at
But
least.
it's also the funny thing is that they're not teaching the concept of you have to earn someone's respect.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just naturally get it. You don't inherently get respect. The only person you would get more respect of than somebody else typically be your parents, because they're taking
Probably.
care of you and stuff. Now, that doesn't mean they get full respect per se. You should work. They should still be like, okay, I'm being a good parent, therefore you should respect me.
Mhm.
As opposed to like, if they're a bad parent, you probably shouldn't respect them. Because why would you respect somebody who's
Yeah, so they also have to work for it, essentially.
parents still have to, but they should start at a higher rate. Like they can start
Sure,
at a
yeah.
5 instead of a 0, where everybody else would start at 0. Like you go, like if I've never met you before, Sage, and I just saw you on a street, I have a 0 level of respect for you because I don't
Wow.
know you.
But why? I'm
Because I
super
don't know
respectful.
you. Well, if we have an interaction, that's the part where the 0 can go up or down. Because I'd be like, oh, well, we're talking about games, or we're talking about Lord of the Rings, or Wheel of Time, or video games, or whatever the case might be, and I'd be like, I like this guy, beep, and it goes up 1, and then we keep talking, boop, it goes up, and then like, oh, dude, and then like if you say something, and I'm like, oh, and then you apologize for it, boop, it's gonna go up because I respect you because you're behaving a specific way towards me. That's how a normal conversation or interaction goes with people. So when people come out and say, well, no, every time you offend somebody, you need to already respect them at max tier, and because they're human, and it's like, I don't respect every human. There's tons of humans I don't respect because they don't respect other people,
How dare you?
particularly people in a particular part of the world that don't let women speak without getting beaten or stoned to death or
Mhm.
throw their face because they might have
Like Canadians, yes.
Canadians.
They what?
I don't have respect for Canadians either, which is funny because I was born there. But I don't have respect for Canadians because they're wanting to kill off people through the MAID program. Like I don't have respect for you because you're douchebags. I don't have respect for the UK because the UK just is collapsing itself on purpose. Now, not to say I don't like people in Canada or I don't like people in the UK or even people in those other not to be named countries. There might be people there that I can respect, but for a general purpose of the entire country, I can't respect them because they're losers. They don't have the bare necessities. Like everybody seems to think like slavery's been banished for so long. It's like, no, slavery's live and well in the world, and you just don't know about it because you live in a comfortable Western area. It's silly. So I can choose to not have respect for those people. So if somebody comes in and says, I demand that you respect my pronouns, I'm like, you don't even respect me enough to not demand something of me. So you don't deserve that respect. You have earned that respect. I have coworkers that are trans. They've earned some semblance of respect, but it's also because it's a volatile environment. If I just start going around pissing people off by not, properly, I usually try to just use their name. I don't even try to refer to them as a
Yeah.
because
Same.
I'm going to avoid the topic altogether.
It's just easier to do with the name.
But I can have a conversation with them and even talk about things that we enjoy. Like I have a Magic the Gathering connection with one of them, and it's just like we can talk about Magic the Gathering and get perfectly along, even despite the fact that I don't populate the ideology that they have. She, they, he, whatever you want to call them. So it's like you can still do it. You can still be friends with people. You can still have interactions with them. It's not the end of the world. But what happens? Apparently, you have to do a barb every single time, and I'm like, guys, my arms only have so much strength in them. I can't do that many barbs.
Also, maybe you should really have named this one differently because
they should have named it the Veil Barb.
Perhaps.
But even then,
it doesn't sound like a positive thing, right?
The barb.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's supposed to be a oops. I like she's like, well, sometimes people, they don't mean what they say. I'm like,
okay,
yeah, and like, this isn't new. And it's like, well, what if they do mean it? Well, then they try to make it about them. I'm like, well, if they do mean it, then they don't make it about them. because they
No,
do mean it.
That's not possible. It's
I know,
against
right?
the laws of
Clearly.
physics.
It's literally like anti-gravity, but it just
Yeah.
float off into space. No rockets required.
Exactly.
But like, if somebody does mean like, hey, sorry about that. You know, like I'm not trying to demean you. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to do anything. My bad. You can literally just mean that, and then that should be it. But the funny thing is they're saying, well, they're making it about like the people who say that, or they're trying to make it about themselves. And it's like the person who's trying to make everything about themselves with their pronouns. Those guys,
Wait a minute.
they're making everything about them. I have more respect for a person who wants to be trans or non-binary or whatever, that if somebody misgenders or mispronouns them, then just like, I get it. It's logical. There are people like that exist, even in the communities that we all are a part of, and whatever, the Fellowship or the 199, whatever the case might be. Everywhere we are, our own neighborhoods, our family relations, whatever the case might be, we all have people who are probably of a different ideology than us or have a different sexuality preference or whatever. It's not like they're uncommon, but even they understand to some extent, some of them, and they're like, hey, we agree with you. This stuff is too over the top. They're trying to get us to do this thing or that thing or whatever the case might be. That's not what the point is. The point is quite literally we can't tell what you want to be because you don't know what you want to be. And then they had one scene which I can't remember.
Rather, maybe you don't know what you are.
Yeah, the funny part is we know what you are, but you don't know who you are. That's kind of weird. Biology, but
Yep.
It's like I'm not embarrassed. It's like, what are you? Are you? What was the term? It's like, are you? What was it? What was that term that was used not too long ago? It's like, are you a biologist or something? Like, it's like that. I'm a woman. It's like, what are you, a biologist or something? Like, I'm non-binary. What are you, a biologist? But there's a scene from Inquisition that I don't have pulled up, but I believe
sure, I'll take your word for it.
I believe Arch pulled it up on one of the side scrollers episodes not too long ago, and I think it was like Monday or something, and he played it thinking it was from this game, but it's actually from Inquisition, and it's about a trans character who did top surgery and everything like that. So it's a girl, I'm guessing, that wants to be a
Where
guy.
did they get the doctors?
It's magic that you can't use without summoning demons to the world. You know, it's kind of a weird place to live.
Yeah. Okay,
regardless, somebody
Doesn't
I
help the
think
message, I
I think
guess.
your character asks asks this thing what exactly, you know, like if you have magic to completely remove the scars and make it natural, would you want to do that? They're like, no way, I wouldn't want that magic within 100 feet of me. And it's like,
Why?
so you don't want to be the actual thing you think you are. But why?
Very suspicious.
Why would you not want to be like, if a man's like, I'm a woman, well, would you like us to make you an actual woman, like 100% biological
let's
woman?
not go too fast.
I wouldn't want that 100. Like, I want that 100 feet of me, and it's like, but so you don't want to be a woman? No, I am a woman. That doesn't want to be a woman. I don't want to be a woman. I am a woman in a man's body. Well, no, I'm a woman, so I'm going to transition to a woman. What do you mean? It's like,
it really doesn't mean anything, right?
it doesn't make any logical sense. It's like, okay, all you have to do, it's the same issue with Hogwarts Legacy with the trans bartender.
Yeah.
They use a female model with a man voice.
Yep.
That's not how a trans person wants to be. A trans person wants to be the thing. So if they're a man that wants to be a woman, which is what the bartender
Perhaps
is
a
supposed to
real
be,
one doesn't want to be that.
But how do you display one, or how do you show one in a game or a movie? Do you show the halfway point, or do you show them completing what they want?
It depends on the setting, I guess.
But if you complete them as they want, they're a woman's voice and a woman's body, which means they're just a woman.
Exactly.
If you do a man,
That's not enough.
and a man's voice, Exactly my point. If you do a woman's voice on a man's body, then you're not fully trans.
So that's exactly why it doesn't make sense in, for example, the Hogwarts Legacy, because of course there you have magic that can do stuff like that. Probably, I think.
I
Who
don't know
knows,
enough
really,
about that
right?
universe, but even if that was the case, I'm not even
The
talking
magic
about them.
there it's not hard magic, right? It's magic can do basically whatever you want it.
I'm not. But the thing is, I'm not even, like, regardless of the magic. I'm just talking about like how you show in a game
yeah.
a trans person, because
But it would make
if
sense
if
if
you
you
are
do
a
it in a game
trans
where it's not
person,
actually possible in the setting.
well, I
Because
mean,
then they
kinda
will always
is.
be stuck at the halfway point at best.
But that's what I'm saying, is that if you're a trans person, you're already in an in-between worlds thing.
hmm
You're neither a man nor a woman in its entirety, due to the fact that your appearance does not match your chromosomes until you fully swap. And even if you do fully swap, there's still aspects, unless you get like $1 billion treatment that like changed your cheekbones and like your facial structure, like everything gets changed until you magically swirl yourself with magic until you pop out as a
You'd have
woman.
to have magic. It's not
Basically,
possible.
like if you do something like, I mean, there are women that can quote unquote pass, but if
Yeah,
you're
but
quote unquote,
that's not the same though.
I know, but
Not
what I'm saying
even
is that
remotely.
if you're passing, you put that in a video game, you're just a woman.
Sure.
You're not a man. There's no man attachment. There's no manly voice. There's no nothing. Like even the men who want to pass as women try to pull off the effeminate female voice.
Sure.
Why have a big deep voiced guy playing a woman in a dress? Big like character.
Yeah, that's the only reason there is the message. right?
Like, but here's the thing: is you could easily like have dialogue that explains that the person was trans.
Mhm.
Or have a notebook or a diary, something that laid open that the player discovers
That's
and
too
says,
subtle. People won't understand that.
well, it's like, oh, this is part of a quest or something. Like, whatever the case might be, it explains to them.
That
While
is
just being like,
actually the case in Hogwarts Legacy. There's a quest that
oh, I mean,
goes into letters of
the bartender,
past
she,
stuff.
he, or whatever the frick it is. I don't even know what it is. I'm assuming it was a guy who went to a girl.
Yeah.
But that thing gives you quests and whatever. And it's just like, you do the quests, you know, obviously that it's a man's voice on a woman's body.
Yep.
But if that's the case, why not just give them the full, complete treatment of the complete transition?
Yeah.
Well, because if you're trans, you don't want to stay trans. You want
Yeah,
to
no, I get that.
complete the trans process. So every time they show them, they're showing them in the halfway point. Or I should
Because
say,
otherwise you don't know they're there, so the message doesn't work.
exactly. So why bother with it?
Because that's the only way to bring attention to it.
It's not necessarily good attention, especially
No,
for people
sure.
who don't care. Even
Mhm.
the people who are like on friendly terms with them or allies or whatever, if all they're hearing in something that they're doing for relaxation, like they're playing racing cars and all of a sudden you got like trans things all over the place, it's just kind of like, I just want to play a racing game. I don't care. Like, yeah, go for it, trans people. But like, it's just constantly hitting you in the face. You're like, I'm getting sick and tired of this because I just want to play the game to relax. But the developers of these games in modern times seem to think all we want is to get stuff force fed to us all the time in a fake world where we're trying to escape from the modern times where we're getting the stuff thrown at our faces all the time. It's silly, it's ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense. But then again, logic is not their strong suit.
It is
Now,
indeed.
On the other hand, because of that one scene from Inquisition, I kind of was like, I don't even know if I want to try Inquisition now, because that was just sheer stupidity. It holds nothing to the story. It doesn't grow the characters in that I could tell. It was kind of like a random history fact in the background for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Maybe it's optional.
It might be, but I mean, if I have the option, it's the same thing in like Baldur's Gate, because you can kill companions off.
Yeah.
So if Asterion comes on to me like totally gay, I could
get him.
I could totally kill him. Because there's like, this is making me uncomfortable, and just stab him. That could be that. I mean, obviously there'd be a fight. It wouldn't just be as simple as just stabbing him. But like, if I don't want that thing like to happen, like I know, oh, this character's going to have this scene later down the road, I'm just going to eliminate that character.
And you just get a more. Oh wait, that's illegal now.
Yeah, can't get a mod because
Mhm.
the Nexus mod brigade of Nazi SS will show up at your house and be like, "Did you make this mod, or did you download the mod? And did you play the mod? Because if you play the mod, you have to go to the concentration camps." You know, just obviously we get the Nazis back because
No,
that's
we call
exactly
them
what
re-education this time.
the re-education Nazi concentration camps. Don't forget to include the gas chambers. Yeah, there we go. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
I added re-education camp to it. But it's just like the Nexus mod guy is such a doofus because he's like such this mustache twirling like villain who's like, oh, I have stopped the bad people from using this stuff. And you're like, wait.
Yeah. Love how he's French.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Germans would take over France, so it makes sense.
Fair.
It's like, you are the bad guy, Nexus mod guy. You are the bad guy. So I don't know how to put it any other way. But because of that, I'm just like, I don't know. But I've heard mixed reviews about Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Yeah. So 2, I think, is not well regarded in the
I've
community.
only played Origins. I have
Same.
Origins Ultimate, and I thought about going in. It was like, I haven't played it since college, which is
A long time ago, probably.
a very long time ago. So I was just like, maybe I could play it and maybe I see how it is. Because a lot of the games I remember their play style a lot different than when I sit down to play them. I'm like, wow, I do not remember it being this way. But
yeah, I never actually finished Origins because, well, the combat compared to what we have now is very clunky.
I don't even remember the combat. I'm assuming it's turn based or like
No,
pauses.
it's real time. I don't think you can pause.
I thought there was a
might
thing like you could.
remember.
I thought you could like pause, and this is
You may be able to pause
where you're in
or
combat. You
issue
can pause,
commands.
and you can like assign spells or
Yeah,
something, and then you hit
that
play
could be
again,
the
and it does
case.
it. So it's like instead of being turn based, it's like
Mhm.
pause based. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never really tried to remember it because I haven't played it yet since then, and I
But
never finished it. I did play a lot
it
of it, but I never
feels
finished
it
it.
feels a bit like if you have you ever played Mass Effect 1?
No.
No. Okay.
I've been cautious to step into Mass Effect because I've heard some of them are really, really, really bad, and I don't know if that starts at 3 or is it Andromeda or whatever they are.
That's Andromeda. You can do the trilogy. Well, 3 also a bit. But the first 3 generally.
If I'm
if
playing Mass
you-
Effect, I'd probably rather play Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, but do the original trilogy, and that's mostly fine.
I think I have Mass Effect 1 in my library.
Oh,
I don't think
Mass
I
Effect
do.
1, maybe the part where you have to drive your tank. That's a bit awkward sometimes.
I guess
And
I'll
the
have to find
combat
out.
is it increases in quality, let's say, as you progress through the games. Maybe
Okay.
2 is slightly better than 3, though.
Then, are you talking about Mass Effect or Dragon Age?
Yeah, Mass Effect. But I would compare like Origins' combat system vaguely to that of Mass Effect 1.
Well, yeah, they're old and both BioWare.
Yeah.
So, sadly, BioWare is no longer what it was back in the golden era. So that's fun. But, but we also wanted to.
But I would definitely recommend the Mass Effect series. Don't do Andromeda. Probably don't do 4. It doesn't exist yet, but
I was gonna say
this is
I'm not
just
touching
precaution.
anything BioWare makes anytime soon. But I did want to.
Or maybe
cover,
it's called 5. I'm not sure how they will.
I think they were going with 4, but I wanted to show you guys some updated stuff that we got going on. So this is.
Look, it's already down to 68,766.
Yeah, that's what's on the page right now. So Steam charts showing some interesting statistics. So it's got a 74.32% of 1,300 user reviews are positive. So that's 990 up and 340 down. There is 68,766 players active right now. It's about almost 6 in the afternoon Central Time. The all-time peak is 70,414.
Generally, it's safe to say that this is the entirety of the European-based player base. At the very least.
Maybe, but there's not really a whole lot of information on this at the moment. But I will say,
Best case scenario for Veilguard is that the Americans are not yet playing.
yes,
But that's likely not true.
well, also on this side to compare it, Baldur's Gate 3, 54,880 players right now. Keep in mind, this is low for Baldur's Gate 3. This is about half of what you get on the weekend. So on the weekends, like on Sundays or something, it'll pop back over to about 100,000. Now, if you notice the all-time peak in 14 months, so a year and 2 months, 875,000 all-time peak. Now keep in mind, that peaked immediately. Like that was same day practically.
Well, not entirely. So that's the first weekend after.
Yeah, the first weekend was the highest peak, but it went 814,000 the next or within 3 days.
First weekend, yeah.
The first weekend. So the first weekend was 800,000, but the first day
is still 500.
It's 472,000. That's very comparable games, not like crazy off of each other. But then we have like how much they go up, how much they go down, what months they do all that type of stuff. But it's got a 96.81% of 668,000 user reviews being positive. So 21,000 down, 646,000 up, almost 647,000. But yeah, with that being 54,880 about 6 o'clock on Halloween, as opposed to 68,766 with an all-time peak 70,000, and maybe it jumps
on
up
launch
to
day, right? So launch day usually is when people play more.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like 70,000 compared to 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the current thing. People have Baldur's Gate 3. They can always pause Baldur's Gate 3 and go back to it literally any time. But they're choosing to play Baldur's Gate 3. Now, the only, and I want to add the caveat, the only distinctive difference to this is going to be that one is a turn-based combat system and one is kind of a mixture of real-time combat mixed with a pause system. So they're kind of similar, but they're both RPGs, they're both fantasies, and they're both from franchises that people like.
Well, or used to, at least.
Well, I'm saying people like Dragon Age. They just don't like this Dragon Age.
Fair.
At least the general amount of population I have come across.
Similarly, also, I think Baldur's Gate 3 was quite a change from 1 and 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They different developers for one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They also based it off the style of Divinity 2 Original Sin, which was Larian's own property. So if you like Baldur's Gate 3, you'd like Divinity 2 Original Sin. Divinity Original Sin, the first one, is also similar, but it's not as clean as 2. But basically, they just made Baldur's Gate 3 could be Divinity 3 Original Sin.
So you could say it had a similar change in.
Well, it went.
Right?
They basically did the same game, but put it in a different setting. So they put it in the Dungeons and Dragons setting, which is Baldur's Gate, as opposed to their own unique world, which is kind of cool that Larian has their own unique world. Like they made an entire Divinity line that's all their own unique world. Baldur's Gate only has 3 games. Divinity has 1, 2. I don't know. It's like 1, 1.5, 2, I guess. And then they have the Original Sin games, which is another 2. So there's 5 games in that. They're not doing Baldur's Gate 4, Larian Studios, that is. So I don't know.
Which means it's probably dead already.
It's probably, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be alive and well for a long time because it's a beloved
Yeah,
game.
no, but I mean 4 when it
Despite
releases.
Baldur's Gate 3 having all, and this is one of the reasons Baldur's Gate 3 is being compared to it, not just in content of like how to play and everything, but also in actual content, because there was the whole bare sex thing, the nudity, the having a penis on a woman and a vagina on a dude, or having whatever amalgamation of a creature you wanted to come up with. That was something that's in the game as well. But that was not the selling point. That was not the goal. It was just a side piece. It was kind of like, look, this is something you can do. I don't know if you guys know this about Dungeons and Dragons, but Dungeons and Dragons essentially lets you do whatever you want and be whatever character you want to be, as long as your DM's okay with it being in the world. It's literally that simple. So having options but not utilizing them is what Dungeons and Dragons is essentially about, or I guess, or to use them. So Baldur's Gate 3 giving you a ton of things. There's a ton of stuff I would never do in Baldur's Gate 3 that they give me the option to do. The fact that there's options I can appreciate, because not everybody wants to play the game the same way I do.
Yeah.
That's what makes Baldur's Gate revolutionary and just
Like play a
mind-blowing.
bard, right? Who would want to do that?
Yeah, who wants to do that? Loser bards. But like, if you want to play a gay character in Baldur's Gate, you can. But it's not forced on you.
You just choose the bards.
You're not forced to be pansexual to romance 90% of the companions in a game, aka Dragon Age. Because as far as I'm aware, there's only 2 that do not require you to be pansexual. Why? They're forcing you to be, not giving you the option to be. If you go in and say, what is the best of this type of thing? Well, Baldur's Gate wasn't LGBTQ plus being their main selling point. That's their main selling point for Dragon Age. I don't understand why.
The main selling point is that it's a return to form.
That's what the reviews allegedly say. Reality is often disappointing, Mr. Reviewers. But I also wanted to cover some stats. So I did this with Sage earlier, but all right, chat, or I guess commenters, viewers, whatever you want to call, since it's not a live sharing. How much do you think Dragon Age Veilguard cost in 9 years of production? Okay. Keep in mind, Dragon Age Inquisition was 3 years in production and cost about roughly $150 million. How much do you think it costs for Dragon Age Veilguard? I'll give you a couple seconds to type your answers in the comments, what you think it would be. So there is a little bit of variance. This is not a guaranteed estimation. It is an estimation. So 9 years, and I didn't get to go into like what the average developer makes, how many developers work there, yada yada yada. There's a lot more than just the employees and what they cost. So Sage had a guess about $600 million.
Yep.
Which was technically correct / accurate. It's anywhere from $300 to $600 million.
Yeah, so I was like barely still in the range.
He was almost outside, but to be fair, it could be higher than that, because I don't know if that includes marketing.
Typically, they don't include marketing.
So marketing's a whole other beast. I've seen ads and ads and ads for this game. Now,
Same.
I don't know if they're putting any on TV because I don't watch TV, so I couldn't tell you if there's any like commercials or anything for it. I imagine there would be because it's EA and they're a big enough publisher. So it's probably even more if they're putting it on TV. Now, I've seen them all over the internet, so they're paying for ads somewhere. But here's the thing. If it's 300 to 600 million, this is like Concord 2.0. Now, this is obviously doing way better than Concord, hands down.
Yeah, this
And I
is
don't-
more than 600 people playing it.
And it's not canceled and the entire studio fired. However, that still could happen. So if it costs 300 to 600 million, even if you want to lowball it, 300 million, another probably, I'm going to lowball the marketing by a lot, another 20 to 100 million, right? It's roughly 320 million to $400 million to make and market this game. Okay. So if you have how much did I say? There was I think it was from the current amount of players on Steam for the 70,000 or whatever, I think was the number I did the numbers off of. But at the all-time peak of 70,414 as of Halloween, that was the highest peak before or at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time on Halloween. 70,414 players on Steam only. This does not include Xbox. This does not include PlayStation. This is just Steam. And I'm sure it's probably also releasing on Epic Game Store and well, actually, no, it might not. I don't know. It's going to be on EA, EA's own Origin site and everything. It's 70,414 players peak. Now, this does not include the people who have bought it, haven't played it yet. This is just the people who are actively playing.
So it is probably lower than the actual number.
Maybe. Well, this is obviously going to be lesser because there's people buying it for PlayStation, Xbox, whatever.
Yeah.
The point is,
of the Steam number, just the Steam one.
Of the Steam active players today, in the all-time peak, it was $4.2 million they made. That seems like a lot. But when you put into consideration of $300 million, that's like making a $300 million movie and it making $10 million on open box on the weekend box office. That's atrocious. Now, keep in mind, that is just Steam and that's just players right now. We still have, as they say, the California numbers to get in.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I think I said that this is probably mostly European-based people.
Maybe. And well, I mean, there's people
and
like
maybe some early
people like me who worked the
Americans
morning shift and got off in the
or
afternoon
something.
pretty early can do it as well. There's also all the college kids who have classes or live at home or they don't have to work or whatever. It's a lot of variables. We're not going to go into all the variables. The point is that in a couple hours we could get hit with a whole lot more people and it could jump.
We'll don't see it once that happens.
I don't see it breaking 150,000 today.
Probably not.
I don't see that. Not on Steam anyway.
I mean, it's already going down right now, so.
Well, yes, but they could spike.
They could spike, sure.
People could have taken a dinner time break or something, or supper time break, whatever they do wherever they're at. But the point being is China's not playing this game right now. I don't know if it's technically their time or if their time's already passed for the day of release. I don't know. I don't see this being very popular in China because I don't think China will allow that kind of stuff because they're very big on masculinity and not very big on feminizing men. And this is very much a feminization of men. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, so this is not a good China time. It's currently 7 a.m.
Well, yeah, but is it 7 a.m, November 1st or October 31st?
November 1st.
Oh, so it's the next day? Okay.
Yeah.
So they've had a release technically all day. So if that's including China, and if they have access to it, they might not have access to it because of the CCP.
But it's more like everyone's sleeping there right now, probably.
Well, I know, but I'm saying their release date would still be October 31st. And if it's November 1st, that means they had all of yesterday technically to play it.
Isn't there simultaneous release everywhere?
I don't know how they do that with the different time zones. Possibly.
I think Steam generally does.
But if we do have access to the Chinese market and they do not pop 150,000, that means they're in trouble. That's the plain and simple.
So my
you got India with a very large population. You've got China with a very large population.
The Asian market is probably only going to be added to the numbers in about, let's say, 12 hours.
Reasonable, or next 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not expecting it in the first 24 hours of its release to be over 150,000.
No,
I could be wrong. I just don't see that happening on Steam.
Typically, it's the first week, essentially.
Now, with Baldur's Gate, but Baldur's Gate, we only have 875,000 players, also almost 1 million, like 750,000. We only, or no, I guess it's technically more than 3/4, isn't it? whatever.
Yeah.
875,000 people, all-time peak within
It's about
that was
7, 8.
the second week or whatever. But that's only Steam. That still doesn't account for PlayStation players. That doesn't account for Xbox players, etc. So, and that doesn't account for anything on the other game stores like Epic or I think GOG also has it as well. So like there's a lot of different people who have it a lot of different ways. None of those things are necessarily relevant, but to keep in consideration, it still has a lot of players. So it's hypothetically that all the players come out on PlayStation and Xbox, and there's like 400,000 of them playing on those systems, possibly. But I think we'll get reports of those sales numbers at some point, so we'll know whether or not they're actual real or if they're lying. Now, the point being on this is that with these numbers, there's some crazy losses if this is what I think it is. Like even if
it definitely does
even
not
if
look
this
good.
if this peaks at 150,000 on Steam, but there's 150,000 on PlayStation and there's 150,000 on an Xbox, even with those numbers, you're only hitting like, and keep in mind, Xbox and PlayStation are both $10 more for the standard edition.
So that's roughly 30 million total.
Yeah, out of a $300 million game. That again, that's lowballing it. It's probably more. And then on top of that, you add the marketing, and the marketing is going to be minimum 20 million, if not more. I would imagine more. If it's that big of a game, the marketing is going to reflect that by them trying to push it because they got to make their money back. I'm not going to go the way they do with movies because games, while being the larger industry over movies, it hits a smaller audience. So I wouldn't say it doubles the amount or anything. It's not going to be like, oh, it's 300 million, so therefore it's another 300 million in marketing. I'm not going to go that far. But I would say 20 million is a low ball, but even then, that means they won't even have paid off the marketing. That's pretty bad. And maybe they found another way to make cheaper marketing. I don't know. But the fun part is that there is the DEI detected group that Cabrutus made on Steam, the curator, and you can go look that up if you want to and join it if you want to, or just follow it, whatever. I joined and followed. How many did you say there was in there? A total?
Like 450 something million.
456,003.
Yeah.
So on an average sale, keep in mind, this is an average sale for just the standard. The amount of people that are probably not going to buy this is 456,000. Now, if the 456,000 people were going to buy it to support the game, it'd make $27 million. $27 million they're losing out on. And that's still 400.
Assuming, of course, all of
that's
those
not
we buy.
millions and millions across multiple platforms. That's just on one platform, assuming all these people wanted to buy it. But if this was a Baldur's Gate 3, I'm pretty sure that 456,000 has at least half of that bought Baldur's Gate 3. At least, because it's a very popular game. It gives you lots of freedom of choice and everything. At least half of that has to be from DEI detected alone, because there's like a lot of RPG lovers and stuff. It's not like people who join DEI detected are freaking like sports fans. They're not like, oh man, the next FIFA game is really woke. I think
probably not.
But they do. Well, I mean, some of the football games have like female players in the professional leagues, which is kind of weird. But,
yeah, no, I meant the fact that they're probably not going to be sport game fans, likely.
Yeah, probably not. They might be racing games. They might be party games. They could be RPGs. They could be action, adventure, whatever. But they're probably not going to be sports. Doesn't mean they won't like sports, but that's not going to be their main interest or something. Now, with this in mind, if you do follow the DEI mentality, you're shuttering out 456,000 players. That's almost 500,000 players from your game. That seems like a lot of loss in sales, because if I come out with now keep in mind that was at $59.99 $59.99 price tag for the standard. That's 27 million for a $60 game. If you were to make a $20 game and pop out those numbers, let's see. You're making $9 million if you can satisfy the entire group. I don't think there's a game in existence that can satisfy every single person in that group, but still, $9 million would probably do most studios proud in terms of being like the developers just getting flooded with a bunch of stuff. So if you technically had a company that was like a publisher, maybe like Ripascend or something like that, that would host and publish this kind of stuff, but not put like a whole lot of limitations on it, like that, they'd have to do some weird write up for the contracts and stuff. But if you manage to pull that off, and some small like 20-man development company comes out and makes this $20 game that satisfies 456,000 people at $20, they just made $9 million, which means they all get paid, which is good. And they have enough money to probably do 2 more projects similarly, or they could do 1 more project with a larger staff, a larger game development group, and just become bigger and bigger and bigger. Just go from basically like a RuneScape type game all the way to a Baldur's Gate 3 game over just successful releases. That's what should be happening because we have a lot of, I would say, mostly decent development groups. Some of them are, or I should say, most of the current ones right now are independent developers, whereas a lot of the current ones that are failing are not independents; they're big ones. So if you can't get bought out by another EA or anything like that, like I guess Activision, is Activision or is it Bethesda the big one? Is it Bethesda is the bigger one, right? Because Activision Blizzard,
I mean, it's Activision Blizzard, so I think that's.
I, I
Is it
thought that
bigger than
I thought they got,
Bethesda?
well, Bethesda's freaking huge, but huge in a
Yeah,
bloated way.
but Activision Blizzard probably also is huge.
Well, because Microsoft bought Bethesda, didn't Microsoft also buy Activision? I don't remember it anymore. But needless to say, if you have enough people, happy with their product, if you had 500,000 people buy your product at $20 a pop, you're looking at like $9-10 million, which is great considering how much it costs to freaking make a game. It's pretty freaking expensive. And I need that kind of money so I can
Yeah,
make my own
so
game.
quick Google tells me that Activision Blizzard is way bigger than Bethesda.
Okay. Who owns
So,
Activision Blizzard? It's
yeah, I
got to
don't
be
know.
Microsoft.
Net
Because,
worth is for Activision Blizzard, according to Google, roughly 75 billion.
whew,
And Bethesda is merely 10 billion. So, or was at the time of Microsoft buying.
interesting. Now, I'm pretty sure Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard because I'm pretty sure they have exclusive rights to Call of Duty for Xbox if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So that sounds right to my head. I don't know if that's accurate, but I believe it is. But that means they have the Elder Scrolls series and they have the Call of Duty series under Xbox as potential exclusives, and they're retarded.
Yes.
I don't know how that's possible. And I watched a video. I don't remember who made it. They did like an Xbox. Oh no, it's Legendary Drops. Legendary Drops did a Xbox history thing, and basically Xbox peaked at 360, and then they kind of went the entertainment route instead of the gaming route. If Xbox went back to the gaming route and avoided the entertainment stuff, like made it like a totally afterthought, and they focused solely on gaming, they could bypass PlayStation and wipe out Sony almost once and for all. It'd be super easy because they have the exclusives. If they just went back to gaming. Now, I haven't played on the Xbox Series X or S. I don't touch anything that's download only. I only touch things that have physical copy disc ability. And The Xbox Series X, the only positive I can personally think about it that makes me even want to buy one is it has complete backwards compatibility. If they didn't have that feature, I wouldn't even think about it twice. And I've been buying Xboxes since the original, so I have everything up to the Series X.
Yeah, I'm a PC gamer, so I don't have any of them.
Well, I was a console player before I had a PC.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Way
So,
back in the day,
yeah.
when I was
Well,
still
I mean,
young.
I had a Nintendo 64.
But then
I
it
had an
was all
Xbox.
Nintendo.
Yeah, well, I have Nintendo stuff. So I started out with a 64. I recently, in like the last year, got my hands on a Super Nintendo that a coworker of mine gave me for free, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to refurnish it or whatever because it had like
I mean,
marker
to be
written all over it.
honest,
But
I was mostly playing like the a RuneScape, I guess, back in the day.
I played a lot of Guild Wars 1 growing up because it didn't require $15 a month, which is what WoW required, and
Mhm.
I didn't have money.
Yeah, same.
So
Same.
Guild Wars was like, "Oh, you mean I just have to buy the game and I own it and then I just play
Wait,
for
what?
forever?" Wow. Novel idea. And I put a lot of hours in that game.
I probably started with Minecraft.
My Guild Wars 2, I think I'm at like 8,500 hours game
Or well, at
gameplay.
least one I myself bought rather than, get as gifts with Christmas or stuff.
Yeah, but like I love the GameCube. Super Smash Bros. Melee was the
Mhm.
blast. I had like
Great.
Ocarina and GoldenEye
Mhm.
for 64. I mean, these are just like the main highlights. I obviously had more games than that, but then I obviously Time Splitters. Whew, that was a great game. Time Splitters 2 and 3 where I played the snot out of. 3's
Yeah.
perfection. Chef's kiss. And if you haven't played Time Splitters 3, you need to play it. It's literally just GoldenEye with humor and cartoony graphics, but it's great. So many unlockables, level editor that you can make yourself. You can do
Mhm.
co-op campaign. Each difficulty unlocks things, and like when you beat things, you actually unlock stuff like characters, new multiplayer maps, new game
Mhm.
modes. You can get like bronze, silver, gold, platinum type thing. So you can like fight with your friends of like who has the better scores and stuff. It's great. You can get it for Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube.
Mhm.
I have it on Xbox and GameCube.
Yeah.
I
So
never
for
had a
me,
PlayStation, so
games I typically played back when I was still small.
still small boy.
Yeah, Pokemon, obviously, on the DS.
Nerd!
RuneScape
I have
on the
Pokemon Yellow
computer.
in box over there, but you can't see it.
Nice, nice.
Um,
And indeed, on the GameCube and later the Wii, the Super Smash Bros.
I wasn't
series.
allowed to play Pokemon when I was growing up, and that obviously went well.
Mhm. Yes.
But I think my intro, like I mean, I knew about it when like Red
Mhm.
and Blue and stuff came
I
out.
started with Ruby, I think.
I started with 4th gen. So I bought Platinum and Diamond thinking they were both different games because I did not have
I
much
mean, they
awareness to it.
sort of
They're
technically
barely
are.
different. But then I sold both of them to buy Platinum because that was when
Yeah.
Platinum started going up in price, and Platinum has
Mhm.
both games in one. And I was like, I'm a Giratina guy. Screw the others. So I just
Yeah.
got the better of the two or the three, and then that was
I'm a
that.
big fan of
And then
the
I
art.
got I did the black and white. I only got one of them. I don't remember which one it is. And then I got black and white 2, one of them, whichever one it was. I think they're the ones with the Zekrom on them. I didn't really care about Reshiram.
Zekrom, I think that's white.
Well, one's white and the other one's black too. So
But
and then
see,
it like
the
swaps.
issue is like Black One has Reshiram, I think,
Mhm.
and
Black 2
Black
has
2
Zekrom.
has Zekrom.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. I think they're flipped. So I have
Mhm.
whichever one has Zekrom on it on both of them.
On
Because I like
both.
Zekrom. I don't really care about Reshiram.
That's fair.
And I have Reshiram. I just don't care about him. Zekrom was cool. But I did that. I did not do Moon or Sun. I did
I
not.
did.
I just got.
It was a bit weird.
I think I got X. Or no, I got Y. I got Y. Whichever one had the bird thingy on it, not the deer.
Yeah, Yveltal, that's why.
Yeah, so I got Y, I think. And I haven't played it, but I have it.
I
I was
have.
trying to collect them, so I just have them.
Mhm.
And I I got a lot. I skipped Sword and Shield because it was just looks stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I did like Arceus. Arceus was really fun. I do wish it was a bit 1080p 60 frames
Yeah,
per second.
I guess
and
Switch
I
limitations there.
that's not a Switch limitation though, buddy.
Is it
That's
not?
no, not even close.
Hmm.
That's an optimization problem. That's not
Fair
a,
enough.
that's
Fair
not a
enough.
Switch limit. If you can play Bayonetta and all the graphics, you can play for Arceus with because like people have already modded their Switches to play it on to play Scarlet and Violet in 1080p with 60 frames per second.
Oh damn! I
And
skipped
like
Scarlet and Violets myself.
I have Violet, because the techno kind of thing
Mhm.
appealed more to me than the fire.
If
cycle
I
was
were
to
to
me,
buy
but
one, I would probably go for Scarlet myself.
I thought the motorcycle with legs was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So Violet, he just like pulls them up and just wheels around.
True, true.
So I like Violet a lot better.
But to be honest, the whole motorcycle Pokemon
Cyclozar's apparently a Pokemon now.
is generally just weird as a thing.
Apparently, well,
as
I mean,
in
they
the
have
whole-
Pokemon that are chairs.
in Scarlet and Violet.
Well, apparently, just a Pokemon in general. Like I think that was
Because
actually
I
Sword and
don't,
Shield.
I don't
believe.
remember that. No, is it?
I think it was Sword and Shield, but I could be wrong.
I
But
cannot remember.
they're getting really lazy with their Pokemon.
True. But let's be honest. Most of the good ideas were already taken.
The imagination is not that limited. You could come up with a lot of things. Like you could have a million different dragons
Yeah,
that are just different
but
names.
you can. But at some point, just the next dragon is going to be a bit stale anyway, right?
Not really. I mean, that's character design and ability design.
Yeah, okay.
And you could
But
also
I
go
would
through
say
the
you can-
900 some Pokemon they have now, and then
Fair.
freaking add either hidden abilities or regular passive abilities that they get.
Sure.
Give them 3 options instead of 2,
Mm-hmm.
so that way when you're breeding stuff, you're actually like have more versatility to go
Sure,
with.
but that's not new Pokemon though, right?
No, they don't have that in Pokemon. Is what I'm saying. They could do that to make
Mhm.
it fresh.
Sure.
Like I played Temtem until Temtem went stupid.
Mhm.
But they were dumb because they said no offline mode. That was stupid. I was like, I will play the snot out of this game, but I can't have internet all the time wherever I'm at. So I'll play the snot out of this. Just let me play offline mode. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it an MMO and only an MMO. And I'm like, okay, I like the idea of having an MMO, but why not make it single player and MMO? I don't need to play with other people. Even if you're on the MMO, you don't play with other people unless you choose to play with other people. So literally just remove the other people and you have single player mode. It's that simple.
Mhm.
They're just dumb that way. And then they also kind of went the whole, trans flags and stuff like that in it because reasons. I don't know why. Like it's just a game, but it has kids game content type stuff in it. So that bothered me a lot. But I've been supporting them since their beta. But they have all the good aspects of Pokemon and removed a lot of the bad stuff. Like you can go onto your Pokemon. They can do this on Scarlet and Violet now, where like if you learn a skill, you can just, as long as you're out of combat, you can apply whatever build you want to whatever Pokemon or whatever in that Tem that you want. But they also do that in Scarlet and Violet where you can do it with your Pokemon. As long as they know the skill, you can apply it to them at any point in time.
Interesting.
Which is a good move.
I'm not a big fan of the whole crystal gimmick in Scarlet Violet.
Crystal gimmick? You
The
mean the Terra raids?
Yeah, that.
I didn't like the Gigantics type stuff either.
Yeah, that's also not.
They all
interesting.
like. I mean, yes, having a ginormous Pokemon is kind of cool.
I mean,
but if you're doing
yeah,
that,
I
do
guess,
Pokemon
but-
Coliseum. Just do Pokemon Coliseum, and then just make everything a Gigantex. Like that's all you got to do if that's what you want.
Exactly.
But like having a big Pokemon does not make it better. It just makes it physically bigger.
Yeah.
Because like,
Well, some of them change the.
well, yeah, but I mean, like the stats,
Graphics, I
the
guess.
stats will adjust to some extent, whatever.
Mhm.
But like, it's the difference between like an Onix.
See,
versus
the
a
Mega
Weedle.
Evolution was cool. I think it's
I think they just made it a little unnecessarily complicated for
fair.
no reason. Like, you don't have to have any of the fancy stuff. Just give us more access to more skills, give us more abilities, give us the ability to customize our Pokemon whenever we're out of combat. That alone would make it like very popular.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, get rid of the cinematics for going into the water. I don't want to hit A 10 times just so
Oh,
I can
yeah,
get
yeah.
into the water.
Yeah. and then the
perfected
pop-up
this.
message.
Temtem, you walk up to the water and you jump on your board and you're moving. It literally is like it's like no loading screen. It's just bloop,
Wait,
bloop. It's
that's
great.
impossible.
I know. Game Freak and
It can't be.
the Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are horrifically lame and lazy and gay.
To think they used to make the silver and the gold games.
But the funny thing is that they literally, and I mean literally, they just need competition. That's all they need. As long as they have competition, they're like, okay, we need to come up with some better ideas, guys.
Yeah, but
Japan, for some reason, actively hates competition. And it's a cultural phenomenon. It's not just a company phenomenon. Like with the whole Power World thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
They're suing them because of a trademark. Well, you shouldn't be able to trademark breathing. You shouldn't be able to trademark walking in the rain. You shouldn't be able to trademark pooping.
Catching monsters.
Like,
yeah.
Catching monsters. Like, well, we catch it a specific way. I'm like, they're using a sphere with extra stuff on it. It's like a sphere with like a top and a bottom. It's not just a sphere. It's a sphere plus.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I go out and I create if you can create a literal Pokemon that looks almost identical to another Pokemon. I mean, there are actual differences, but it's like a parody Pokemon because it's a parody game. If you can make that, and they're not going to sue you for that because they won't win, but they're going to come after you because you can catch a monster in a ball. My first reaction is to go to Power World and say, if they try to win or try to do anything like that, just say, we're going to change it to a Rubik's Cube, and you throw the Rubik's Cube, and it's going to...
To be honest, that would be kind of awesome.
I know. That's why I came up with it. But that itself would be fantastic and kind of cool because, you complete the Rubik's Cube or whatever. Not like literally do a Rubik's Cube because that would lock a lot of people out.
Let's not go that far.
Hey, maybe if you want to manually do it, like they have a manual Rubik's Cube, like a master Rubik's Cube, and you throw the Rubik's Cube out there and like you have to manually you're flicking your fingers and doing all that type of stuff, but you can guarantee catch whatever it is you want.
Oh, that could be interesting. Yeah.
It'd be like a master ball, but instead of being just throw it and catch it,
the master Rubik's Cube.
Throw it, and then it would you'd have to manually do it. For one, it could challenge people to become smarter and do Rubik's Cubes, maybe.
Yeah.
But also two, it's a option. It's not going to be the only one. Huh?
Time limit on the Rubik's Cube solving?
I don't know how that would work. That's up for Power World because I don't know the inner makings of how they have their system.
Fair.
But like catching a monster in a in any type of capturing device being like that's just silly.
But to be honest, I think we're sort of going off topic a bit.
Actually, no, because this is a good segue.
Is it?
For the next topic.
Damn.
IPs, intellectual properties, and why I hate them. And hear my reasoning before you disagree.
Okay, sure.
I already know you're disagreeing with me. So, for the same reason that Pokemon, well, and Dragon Age for that matter, are shooting themselves in the foot. Nintendo because they're suing somebody. Dragon Age because they're just being stupid. But this applies to virtually everyone in recent memory that has made a game like Concord or Dustborn or whatever. Though Dustborn was government funded, so I mean, you can't lose. I mean, if we had government funded video games, I'd make them. But
yeah, the government's not going to fund you.
Not American government, no. But if I go to Denmark or Norway,
even then, you have the wrong ideas, right? So you're not getting funding.
Well, I have the wrong ideas of just making a game that's fun for everybody to play.
Yes, actually, that's.
We only give money if you aim at people that you hate and don't want their money. Then we'll throw it at you. But if you make something fun,
you don't have the correct ideology for that.
Yeah. But where Dragon Age is like trans that, like we watched a 2-minute clip, people. A 2-minute clip of no story, of nothing to help you beat the bad guys.
We now know.
Nothing.
Well, we do know that they have a barf guy, right?
Yeah, the one guy who's like, "Urgh, urgh, barf." Yeah. But like, what is the bad guy gonna do? Misgender you? Oh,
Yes, actually, that's.
you've taken critical damage.
Oh no.
How do you proceed? Flash your
Well-
scar, your top scars.
Okay.
Ah! That sounds about accurate for the games you fight about a boss. I have heard the final ending of the game was moderately okay. But
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that too.
I've heard it probably doesn't have anything to do with transgender. It probably doesn't have to do with top scars. It probably doesn't have to do with any pronouns. It's probably just fighting a boss.
Yeah.
So if we just did that the whole game,
From
have the
the videos shown, it looks like there's a big dragon that you fight at the end. I think
that's
maybe.
a very weird looking dragon, but that's beside the point. I
It's
suppose.
it's a creepy corrupted dragon or something.
I
right?
don't care if it's creepy or corrupted. It looks pathetic, in my
Fair.
opinion.
Fair.
But
I think that's mostly just
actually, one
a
thing I
result
want
of
to
the
add.
art
One
style.
thing I wanted to add for Dragon Age Veilguard before we move on that I heard from the Night's Watch stream that Chad does with Lit Dev and Mike and Royce from Drinking Crazy. They didn't point out that the colorization looks and the art style looks a lot like a Fortnite game,
Yeah.
and that they might be aiming it at kids.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
So if you're marketing this game towards kids, like, hey mom, dad, it's just like Fortnite. Oh, you play that Fortnite game. Let's get this game for you. Ignoring the rated M for mature, ignoring the topics and stuff that's involved with it, because I'm sure it has drugs. It probably has obviously lots of violence, maybe blood and gore. I can't tell with this art style. It probably doesn't look like it's going to have any. But whatever the topics might be, it's going to have probably sexual themes in it as well. Not something you want to aim at like a 12-year-old. Or a 9-year-old or even younger. Some people play this at like 4. But the point is that they're going to be playing Fortnite and then be thinking, oh, well, this looks just like Fortnite. I'll get this for my kid. And then they're going to have 2 minutes of gender ideology slamming into your kid's face and a very impressionable kid. So that's kind of freaking messed up. So if you're a parent that allows your kid to do that, you're just a bad parent. I'm going to just flat out say you're a bad parent.
Yep.
Because you're supposed to protect your kids, not feed them to the lions.
Also,
I say that as a parent.
update.
So
the numbers are roughly almost 1,000 down from the ones we shown earlier in the video.
Well, again, I'm expecting to go on and on.
I'm expecting it to go up
I'm
in
more concerned.
probably an hour or 5.
I'm more concerned with the ratings. It's at a 76% positive. When I checked earlier before, like at 3 o'clock or something, it was at 69% positive. But either way, I'm not seeing this reach that high today. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the week. It's going to go multiple weeks, and it might peak 200,000 at some point. But I don't know what math you'd have to do to make $300 million. Let's see what that would be. I'm horrible with calculators. 300 million. Oop, that's too many. That's trillion. 300 million divided by 59.99.
Just do 60.
That's like 5 million players, bro.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna find 5 million people to play Dragon Age?
Probably never.
How do you expect to make money? What the heck? Okay. Point being, bad parents allow their kids to play this crap without quality checking it or checking reviews or something. I mean, the review system alone should have been throwing flags for everybody under the sun. Because if you're only giving review copies to people who will give you a positive review, and you're seeing these
specifically exclude people who were allowed to go to the last event,
but didn't give it great praise,
right? Yeah. Not hyper positive.
Even slight criticism got them knocked off the top. And you're like, okay, well, there's
the one I'm most familiar with would be Fextra Live.
Yeah, Fextra Life. They're apparently like the ones who saved BioWare forums and everything. Like
Mhm.
they did a lot of stuff for the
For
BioWare
Dragon
community
Age
and
specifically.
Dragon Age. But yeah, it's just like, okay, these guys, big channel.
Mhm.
Big channel. I don't even remember how many subs it is, but it's a freaking lot. If it was even 500,000, that's a
They
big
have a
channel.
video actually going up saying the specifics that they were specifically losing contact immediately after they didn't give a glowing review. And
Yeah.
then, yeah,
Well, they did a review that wasn't even about
They
the
got-
game; it was about their experience with BioWare.
Mhm.
But it's like if you have the go-to reviewers that everyone's probably going to be looking towards because they're BioWare and Dragon Age specific content, they're going to go to that person. It's like saying, I'm going to go see Star Wars, but I'm going to get Star Wars theories like input on his reviews. And
Mhm.
he's like, I didn't get a screening. You're the biggest Star Wars YouTuber on the planet,
Yeah.
and you didn't get a review? That's
Yikes.
sketchy. That's
Very
real sketchy.
Mhm.
But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's basically whenever you see that, I think like 5 different journalistic places gave it
journalistic
a
reviewers.
10 out of 10, right?
Yeah, there's those. There's 9 out of 10s.
9 out of 10's
I think
many.
there's like 1 8, 8.5 or whatever.
There
But
are
then they had
very few lower ones.
like
At least in
nobody I saw
the
gave it a
ones that
7 or
got
less. It
early
was like,
access, right? The
Huh?
review codes,
Oh, yeah,
people
yeah.
who got those,
Yeah.
none below at least 7.
Yeah, well, I didn't even see a 7 for any of those.
I think there was like 1 7.
I mean, freaking was it
Then the
IGN
rest
that gave
is
him like
typically 8,
a
8.5, 9,
it's like a
10.
10 out of 10 or something for IGN?
Yeah, that's IGN.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I love Time Splitters 3 Future Perfect. It's not a 10 out of 10. I don't know of a game that is 10 out of 10. It's about as close to a 10 out of 10 as you could possibly get because it's an amazing game. I say the same
Mhm.
thing for Shogun 2 Total War. Like it's the perfect Total War game.
It's probably a
But
9.8 or something.
it's really, really nice up in the air. It's definitely a 9 easily. There is no such thing as a 10 out of 10 game that I have been able to find. I have 8,500 hours into Guild Wars 2. It's not a perfect game. I have sunk so much time into it,
That's
and
a
I
lot of
have all that
hours.
stuff. Yeah, that's only one game. I have a lot of games.
Damn.
So don't even think about calling me a fake gamer. This stuff here is money. I probably should not have spent. I have a problem.
Mhm.
But yes, help. But with that whole thing with like the parenting and stuff like that, that throws a whole nother view out there. Cause like if I worked at a video game place, Vintage Stock specifically, and I was in charge of all the games, and I would go in and I'd organize, clean everything up, and I would like just if somebody came up, what's in this game? I look at the game and tell you exactly what's in the game. Just like, yeah, here's all the content in the game that you're gonna expect as a parent, or if you're a teenager, or whatever the case might be, if you're an adult and you want to play it yourself, here's what you could expect in this game. It's this type of a game with this kind of a content. I don't have to tell you the story because I'm not going to ruin it or anything. I'm just going to be like, this is what you have for content. That it's literally that simple. It doesn't take much. But when you get to games like this and they're actively trying to hide stuff, because apparently I think it was either EA and or BioWare was going around trying to knock down that 2-minute clip. Because I got that from Twitter. You can't take that down.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, apparently they were trying to yank it. And it's like, well, why don't you want people to know?
I think someone got a
It's not
review
going to
code
spoil
simply by
the
saying
story at
they were
all.
non-binary. Right?
Yeah, somebody claimed that they were non-binary, even though they're not.
Mhm.
We got sent a review copy over people with a much bigger platform than them.
Yep.
But the point being,
So
red
very
flags.
suspicious. Yeah.
Lots of red flags. The review system's a red flag. The content they have in the game aimed at kids is a red
Very,
flag.
very suspicious. Yep.
And a lot of people who even said they liked the game say it's not Dragon Age.
Okay, yeah, I missed that
Like,
one.
You can go to the Steam reviews right now. You could be like, hey, here's list
Oh yeah,
after list
I
after
don't
list, and
really
people
look
are
at
just
Steam
going like,
reviews.
yeah, I really like the combat, I like the story, blah blah blah. And somebody even say the writing's kind of cringe or whatever, but they're like, yeah, it's still fun, but it's not
I mean,
Dragon Age to me.
kinda is underselling it a bit.
It's kind of what.
Kinda cringe, right? the kind
I
that
mean,
is
they're like
slightly
the writing is
underfulfilled.
questionable or whatever. Like,
It's extremely.
there are people who
cringe.
love the story. There are people who despise the story. I'm not going to go into the varying degrees of that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in a consistent form, even the people who like the game are claiming it's not a Dragon Age game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big part. So I don't know what the point is. Like, yeah, you want to have a game with freaking LGBTQ plus stuff in it? There's plenty of those to go around, I'm sure. There's a tag for it on Steam, so go find something. But it's in the wrong game to be a promoted, because I want to go check. Because I vaguely remember it being a thing. Yeah, so Baldur's Gate 3, when it first came out, I'm pretty sure had an LGBTQ plus tag that players were adding because the whole bear sex and gay sex and all that type of stuff, the nudity that you could do and all that jazz, that had a tag on it. And I'm pretty sure Larian Studios went themselves and removed that tag. Not because it's not there, but because that's not the selling point of the game. It's there. There's tons of gay stuff if you want that. There's tons of a lot of things. You can be, again, a dude with a vagina or a woman with a penis. That's up to you, but that's them giving you the option, but that's not the point of the game. The game is choices matter, character customization, which is freaking top tier customization, and then it's an RPG. Those are the three major tags that they want you to know their game by. It doesn't matter if it has quote unquote woke stuff in it. And technically, I'd argue it doesn't have woke stuff in it because it's not ideologue driven. It's we want you to play how you want to play, and we're not going to tell you how to play. Dragon Age is the opposite of that. They're going to tell you how to play, and you're going to play the way they want you to play. So unless you just don't have relationships with any of your companions, which if I played, it'd probably be me. I would want any relationship with anything. At that point, I wouldn't even want the party. I'd just be like, kick them all out. They're useless to me. I don't know if the game allows that. I don't remember the first one, so I don't remember if it's something I can avoid or not. But if you're in a game, because I'm pretty sure in Baldur's Gate, you could just not have people with you. It makes it a heck of a lot harder, but it's technically doable.
Is it doable? Depends on the difficulty.
Technically doable. I'm sure the hardcore players that know how to play Baldur's Gate 3 could easily just go through and just wipe everything, even from the brand new character, because they know how to abuse the system. It's the same thing with Pokemon. Like a kid with no brain power can go in there at 5 years old and play a Pokemon game and still win. Or you can play a Pokemon master who can abuse the system and knows all the ins and outs, knows all the things. Oh, I'm going to go up against this enemy. I'm going to use this thing. I'm going to have this customized Pokemon on standby. Blah, 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 blah. I know where I'm going to go. I know exactly who I'm going to fight. Boom, just burn through all the content. Very easy to do. It's just a matter of how, it's the easy to play, hard to master kind of a thing. I am by no means a master of Pokemon. I enjoy Pokemon, but I'd enjoy Pokemon a lot more if they actually put effort into it and didn't try to cancel their game competition. But again, Japan, for whatever reason, and if there's any Japanese viewers, please put in the comments if you know what exactly is your deal with supporting corporations that literally limit what you can do. Because I don't see that as a good thing, but you guys practically worship the companies like that. And it's not just Nintendo, any corporation in Japan, they put a lot of emphasis on that corporation. I'm like, I get it. It's a Japanese company and you want that company to do well because you might have family or friends or somebody who works there and they get paid off of it, whatever. I get that. But why would you not like the same studio that made Power World when it's a Japanese company? Because personally, I want competition. I want PlayStation and Xbox to kick each other's teeth in. Because that gives me a benefit. Because they try to do better than the other. They try to give me more than the other. And they try to do it at a reduced cost. They can't always go super crazy cheap. It's not like a PlayStation 5 when it first came out was $20. But it definitely, what they're trying to give you and the quality experience they're trying to give you is supposed to be a better experience than what Xbox provided you for a cheaper cost. Because I think Xbox was what, $500 and it was like $600 for the PS5 or something like that.
Who knows?
But that being the case, why do you want to worship a corporation that's literally going to just do the same thing, boring and bland, over and over again, when you could have competition between them, like Digimon, Pokemon, or whatever, and if you have that actively bouncing off of each other, then you get better quality. I mean, I get that America has kind of the cultural monopoly on competition and free market because there's like doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. We don't really have a free market, guys. It's not a free market. It's not a capitalist market. It does not exist that way. But everyone likes to think it is. But we do push for monopoly because we say, I'm going to give my money to the people who are going to do the best for me. We do this in games all the time. We're looking at Dragon Age Veilguard saying, you know, I don't really like what you're doing here.
Yeah, also the title. Why did they add the in the title? Because it breaks up the flow of the name.
Well, it's Dragon Age : the Veilguard.
Yeah.
It's because
But the first one, Dragon Age Origins.
Well, Origins isn't a title.
Okay, sure.
Veilguard is. Dragon Age 2, not a title. Inquisition, not a title, it's an event.
Fair.
If it was Inquisitors, it would be the Inquisitors.
But it feels weird, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's not clunky, but it was supposed to be, I think, Dreadwolf. But they completely scratched that.
Could be.
That's what I heard anyway. I don't know. I don't pay. I'm
mean,
not
I
like
think,
a BioWare fanboy by any means.
Is it Solus? Who is the character that is
I
the
don't
Dreadwolf?
remember, dude. I gotta go back and play through it. But I'm wondering what the sales are for Dragon Age Origins right now. Because I feel like that would be bigger than Dragon Age Veilguard.
Could be. Who knows?
But with the whole thing of like getting onto the current topic of IPs, I dislike IPs.
Okay, but what do you mean exactly?
Specifically the laws, copyright laws, intellectual property laws, stuff like that. Hear me out. Having a good story and then having anybody just come in and just wipe it out,
Yeah,
is kind of silly, if not blatantly stupid. So, for example, Marvel. You have the canon, which is how something was created and up to a certain point, and you have like they always have like 7,000 different creators of the same character because they can't just give the job to one person. It's the same thing when you go to a TV show. It's like we're gonna have a TV show and we're gonna hire a million different writers over the course of like 7 seasons. I'm like, why not just have the same writers to have a cohesive, consistent show? Because the shows that do that, very few as they are, do make really good quality content. But if you're doing something with a different one, it's just like the characters behave differently in between different episodes. It just doesn't make sense in a lot of those situations. It did a lot better in the olden times, like in the 90s. A lot less sense now. But I just don't understand why you'd want different people writing the thing because they don't all understand the character the same way. So if you have these people like, okay, I'm the original writer or whatever for, I don't know, Spider-Man. And then, somebody else comes along and changes the whole canon. Like Peter Parker's no longer a sweet, nice boy that just wants to help people. Now he's kind of a dick and he's a flamboyant homosexual who also likes getting pegged by his girlfriend that has 3 boyfriends. Like really going away from the Peter Parker thing, really going away from having a hot redhead girlfriend, in some storylines, a hot blonde girlfriend or whatever, like going completely away from that and going to like, I don't care about the city. I'm going to, just do my own thing. But if they get in my way, I'm going to beat them up. And it's just like, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying like going from one to another and being like, yeah, that's canon. It's like, that's not canon because that's not what Peter Parker would do.
Okay. Yeah.
So Marvel gets bought out by Disney, right? And you're like, okay, or I should say Marvel Comics specifically, and then obviously Marvel movies and the other entertainment stuff. So with that being said, you got Marvel being bought by Disney, and Disney's just like, we're going to erase everything and do it whatever we want to do. But then they just give it to writers and let the writers do whatever they want. They don't put anything on them. So we get this broken canon that doesn't make sense, heads or tails of any direction, because they don't all go the same direction. They go in different directions.
Right.
It doesn't logically follow. It doesn't even coherently follow in any shape or form. And I could have like 10 different Peter Parkers that all do 10 different things and behave 10 different ways because there's no standard to hold them in place.
Fair. Yeah.
As an IP. But if you, as a fan, were like, you know what, I'm going to make my own Spider-Man comic, and I'm going to write it according to the lore and the canon. I'm going to make the characters do what the characters did. I'm going to make the characters look like the characters did. I'm going to have them behave as they were supposed to behave because the original canon. So you do all of that, and you go to put it out, and then you get hit with a lawsuit because you're trying to make something that somebody else owns the stuff for.
Yeah. So is your problem specifically with the current laws that exist, or with that there are laws in general about it?
More specifically the ones that exist, because I don't mind there being some protection.
So hypothetically, if we were to have, say, copyright laws or IP laws, whatever you want to call them, that make them impossible to sell.
No, I don't want that. But
Okay.
That's not what I'm worried about. So here's my thing. I thought about this the other day, and it's not fully fleshed out completely, but hopefully we can brainstorm together. But
Sure.
so if, let's say, Spider-Man or I don't know, pick an IP, Pokemon, being that it was kind of the lead-in, it was the segue. So Pokemon, if I want to make a Pokemon game, if you have a new law to put into place, they would get what you would call the official license.
Sure.
Now, anybody would be able to make Pokemon stuff, but a percentage of their profits would have to go to the official license holder.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
anybody could potentially buy a license for the official license, but let's say you're out there and you're selling Pokemon stuff. Well, you could like 5-10% of whatever. I mean, it could be a larger or smaller profit. It's going to depend on the profit margins and all that stuff. But 5 to 20% of your profit goes to the official holder of the IP. And it's free money. They don't have to do anything. They literally just make money because other people are making stuff.
Sure.
But the other people making stuff could make good content. Like Star Wars. You could make a good Star Wars film. Like Star Wars Theory. He could raise the money, like $10-15 million or whatever. But here's the thing. You wouldn't be prevented from funding it through other people, like a Kickstarter or whatnot. If you wanted to just make a fan film, you could be like, everybody could jump money on you, and you could direct it. You could have executive producer, everything like that. Make a film with real actors. You don't have to worry about voices and all that kind of stuff, or actors being a problem because you're in the IP. You could technically use it. So you have full access to everything that they would have access to if they wanted to do it that way. They obviously don't want to do it that way because they're doing it the way they want to do it, as the official license. So anything official would come out with official licensing. Okay. Unofficial stuff would have unofficial licensing, meaning that they're having to pay percentage to them. So for example, let's say Star Wars Theories go out and make a unofficial license of a Star Wars film. He makes, I don't know, $1.5 billion. I mean, I'm going to do math again. He makes $1.5 million because he makes just a fantastic Star Wars, true to Star Wars roots, goes in the expanded universe or whatever it might be. So I need you to help me with math.
What do you want to know?
So if you have $1.5 billion, what would 20% of that be?
Which type of billion are we talking?
What do you mean, which type of billion?
How many zeros? No, there's the European and the American billion, which is different.
I don't know what the difference is, but
yeah. So how many zeros?
A billion would be 9 zeros.
Okay, sure.
So a million's, less.
1.5 billion then, 10 to the 9.
1.5 billion.
Which
What
is
is-
what exactly?
That sales, because a good
Sales,
Star Wars
sure,
film could
yeah.
easily make that, because people are just dying to have a good one. So,
So that's
$1.5 billion. What's
dollars. Okay,
20% of that?
well, you simply multiply by 0.2 and get 300 million.
Disney would make 300 million. Lucasfilm specifically, 300 million, literally for doing nothing.
Okay.
It'd be a very expensive movie to make, obviously, because you have to hire actors, you got to do CGI, you got to do physical, you could do studios, all that kind of stuff. But if you could fund it and you made 1.5 billion, you easily would pay for all that stuff. Easily. Because people want that content. People want to go to Star Wars Theory's fan-made Darth Vader films and want to throw money at them. And I think those were like CGI or something. I haven't actually got a chance to watch them myself. But they have people doing voice acting for Darth Vader and all the different characters and whatnot. And he's funding this out of pocket. So he's not making anything off of it. It's literally just him making it because he's passionate about it. And it's just like, okay, well, imagine if you had people who wanted to buy advanced tickets to whatever this thing was, and they just flood him with stuff.
Yes.
He's got like 3.3 million followers.
How do you deal with the potential issue of, let's say you are Tolkien and you write your Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And then some random people somewhere across the world go and write their own story in Middle-earth that is completely counter to what you want Middle-earth to be, right?
Okay.
But it's still Lord of the Rings.
Rings of Power?
Yeah, that's the perfect example. They would legally be able to do that and thereby taint the original.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if it's...
They don't have the official license.
It doesn't matter if it's official or not.
No, it does. Because it's saying this is a fan fiction. This is a non-real entity. Because it's the same thing as if you see those...
existence associates with
but
its
existence
in their mind
not,
the link.
Its existence does not change the original.
Sure.
The original cannot be changed.
Sure.
If they want to write a similar to Lord, like if they want to say like Lord of the Rings or something, and like that's what they call it or something or whatever,
sure.
Then it's not gonna. Who's gonna go read that? Nobody's interested in their writing. They're interested in Tolkien.
Sure.
But anybody who writes, like Wheel of Time is notorious for having a lot of Tolkienian type stuff in it. You've got a lot of things.
But merely the name alone.
Yeah.
For example, Rings
and
of
if somebody
Power,
goes,
right?
wow, Lord of the Rings, that was crap. Rings of Power, anyone? That's not damaging Tolkien. That's damaging the Amazon brand.
It's damaging the whole thing.
No.
Yes.
No. Nobody's thinking, man, Rings of Power is really bad. I'm never going to touch a Tolkien work ever.
Random people who only know the Rings of Power see it. And
if somebody's going to be retarded and make really dumb comparisons and not do their homework, that's on them. But they do that already.
Yeah.
They already do that. Like, anybody who watches Rings of Power and thinks it's a masterpiece already is pissing all over Tolkien's work.
Yeah.
They're doing that already. But what if?
And your new
Peter
idea
Jackson
would make that legal, essentially, right? So
it already is legal.
It already is, which is why
had to pay billions of dollars
the law
for it.
should be changed. But your change doesn't really work.
No, because mine allows good works to outpace bad works. That's the point. So if somebody comes out and is like Tolkien 2.0 and continues on like the fourth age from mankind or whatever, like Aragorn's on to whatever era or whatever thing you want to cover, and maybe goes into talking about how Aragorn goes in and subjugates Rhûn, subjugates Harad and Far-Harad.
But even if it's good, right? Even if it is good, but unofficial, people will still treat it as if it is the actual thing.
Well, they're going to do that for unofficial things anyway.
Yeah. That's why if
But
there is unofficial
the
stuff,
difference is that if you have an unofficial tag, for one, the people who are holding the actual official license are going to get paid. They're not
that doesn't
taking
matter.
losses. No. I'm saying
Sometimes you
at
don't
least
care
in
about being paid. You just want to protect your
but you are protecting your
work
IP.
by allowing others to basically do whatever they want with it.
Yes, because anybody can do whatever they want to it anyway.
Sure.
But I'm saying, like, you can do a Lord of the Rings production, just not make profit off of it.
Yeah.
That does not tarnish Tolkien's written works.
But it does prevent people from doing it.
It puts a comparison. Well, it prevents because it's expensive.
Yes.
But it also prevents us from actually having good quality stuff, too. Because what happens in the world, when we're already moving this direction, when all the corporations own all the good stuff? We have no good stuff.
Which is why my proposal is make maybe 2 separate versions, right? You start with an unsellable.
As long as one of them's
right?
mine, I'm okay with that.
You start with an if you say you write a book and you have a copyright on that.
Okay.
The original copyright is only you can make stuff of that work. Everyone else's stuff is illegal as long as they profit from it. You cannot sell that what we call it, the copyright. Yeah, you can't sell it to someone else. It's stuck to you as a person, the creator. But you can give it up and change it into your idea and thereby sell the official license, maybe.
Not really following this, but yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you also automatically open up the ability for others elsewhere to do so.
Are you saying, like, because in my opinion, it'd be like, if you're gonna have intellectual property, like copyright, trademark, or whatever, it needs to be like a 10-year max. It's not gonna be a 50 or 75-year, because
definitely not.
It's ridiculous.
Super long after the original.
I'm not saying I don't want the people who make the original content to make money. I want them to make money. I want them to make
sure,
boatloads of money. But here's the thing:
but make it.
What would happen if Tolkien wasn't an honorable, principled man? What if he got lazy? What if he stopped putting out good content? What if he ruined his own plot lines?
Then he wouldn't sell anything.
People would still buy it, and they'd be disappointed, and they'd lose faith in his entire
fair.
IP. He'd still make money, and he'd still be rolling in the billions of dollars he's made through all of his books if he was still alive, right? So,
sure. Like, say another person that we probably know. Let's not name any names.
You have to narrow it down.
Yes.
Like the one guy that did the one thing that one time. Oh yeah, that one.
No, I'm thinking of, say, a certain writer that also does fantasy and has written, let's say, 5 books and has done no more that should happen.
Are you talking to a particular King George individual?
It's somewhat related, you could say.
Oh yeah, did you hear he wants to write a book? Another book.
Of course he does. Fucking hell.
After Winds of Winter. And we're like, yes, but you're never going to finish Winds of Winter, so it doesn't matter. Nice try.
Nice try.
But in terms of, like, in your system, I have a couple problems.
Which is?
In your system, if you're not allowed to, like, license out your stuff or whatever, you are. You are? I thought you owned everything and you can't.
As soon as you do that,
does it become open public?
It becomes open public, as in your idea. So you haven't.
I mean,
you start out as an original protection, so that only.
So you're saying if you're an author and somebody approaches you to do a movie, it has to go open to public for them to do a movie. I could kind of agree with that.
That way, you still have the choice to make it only you can make works in your setting.
I kind of like that. I can see that being a reasonable possibility. The reason I was thinking about the method of mine is because currently it's like 75 years or some nonsense for something to go
The
public. And I'm like,
75 years is way too long.
it's what about all the content that could be supporting? There could also be bad content. I mean, it's
Mhm.
but like imagine if while Rings of Power is going, Peter Jackson could come in and make a decent Lord of the Rings film.
Yeah, that would be
Granted,
great.
most people don't want another Lord of the Rings stuff. I'm like, I want more content. I just want it to be good and accurate. That's all
Mhm.
I want.
Sure.
So if somebody comes along and says, I'm going to make a good and accurate version.
Of the
Yes,
Silmarillion?
please.
Yes, that would be nice.
I want more content. I don't want less content.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I already watch Lord of the Rings at least once a year, extended editions in one sitting. At least. That's not to
Yeah.
mention all the other Lord of the Rings stuff I have.
Mhm.
And I've got a lot of it. But it's just
Right.
like
The 70 years is way too long. I agree.
if
So
you have 10 years,
perhaps
sure.
10 years as a sort of,
Well, it's like
I don't know
if
what
you
to call
gave
it.
10 years, and here's the other problem with the 10 years is that if you do 10 years, is it for the IP or is it for the individual pieces of the IP? So, like, say J.K. Rowling does Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Well, for 10 years, you can do that one, right? Well, then she
Sure.
waits 3 or 4 years, then releases the next one.
Right. But
Then there's
that
another 10
problem,
years on top of that.
that
It just keeps
problem
going.
is solved if you say life of the author and then plus 10 years.
That means no one will be able to do Harry Potter forever because she's still kicking.
As long as she's alive. Unless she says, oh, I want you
Unless
to
she
make
wants
a
to sell
movie.
media or something.
Well, if she makes it herself, it should be fine.
Well, with book sales, she probably could open her own studio and do that too. But
Yeah.
then you have the problem of monopolies.
Yeah, but a monopoly on your own creative work should be allowed.
I'm kind of iffy because I feel like that's how we get companies becoming stale and non-innovative. Because the idea is like if somebody creates this revolutionary method for a vehicle system or something, right?
Mhm. Yeah, but that's
And
different.
no. They're all properties and not
Yeah, no,
intellectual property. They're all
I get that.
copyright, trademark, or
But I
whatever.
think that should be
Or
separate, right?
patented.
We're only talking about artistic
I'm
expressions,
talking the idea entirely. I'm not
not a
talking.
technology in general. That I think should be free for all the time.
So you think one corporation should be able to profit off of it, but nobody else? Or
No,
you
no.
think,
So if
so
you
you
have
think that some schmuck in his garage is going to be able to compete with
technological stuff,
a corporation like that?
should be free to do. So say someone invents a new design for an engine
Then
that
what's
makes
the
it work fine.
what's the incentive to be innovative?
Good point.
Because incentive is what drives innovation. That's why Game Freak, Pokemon Company, and
Mhm.
Nintendo suck balls. They have no innovative drive because there's no incentive. They make enormous amounts of money doing literally nothing.
Yeah,
They
I
could
guess.
sell you Pokemon toilet paper where it's 900 Pokemon on a different roll of ply every single time you pull it out. They would sell billions of dollars worth of that, and they don't have to do anything. It's the cheapest thing to make. It's just a kind of a little printout thingy. Flip, 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 flip. Guess what? You have
Okay, sure.
billions of dollars. There's no incentive for them to make a better game, a better
What
card
if
game, or anything. It's just they can make bad stuff, and then what do you have to enjoy entertainment-wise? What do you have to enjoy technologically-wise?
Mhm.
There isn't going to be hoverboards or anything for the
Yeah,
longest time
okay.
because
Then
they have that
solve
incentive.
it by not having the companies be the one who get the copyright, but the
But if a
current person in charge.
person gets the copyright, they can make a company and then do that.
Sure.
Or a company could buy the license from them and then hide it, which is what
Yeah,
happens already. So
but
my point
if you
is
use the
that
same
if you have access,
rules for selling the license, that it turns into
and open,
everyone can do it.
but even if it's open, as much as I'd like to believe people would be innovative and blow past the competition, it also massively cut down on lawsuits. Holy crap. We'd free up the
No, that's
courts a
fair.
lot. Because then you can't
That's
just be
fair.
like, I'm suing them because they took my design, or I'm suing them because they're doing something similar. No. You don't get none of that. Because the whole point is that you beat your competitor by making something better. We
Fair.
could be to the moon and living there with an entirely artificial oxygenated like atmosphere and everything in like 10 years because of the innovative push it gives people. Because the other ways companies will try to like stop those kind of things is by buying the production lines. So like buying the mines that have the chips or the bits that they need for chips to put into cell phones or whatever. They just go buy that and then they lock it down because property. And I was like, yeah, I'm not against property at all. Property rights are legit. I always like property rights. But companies shouldn't own property because they're companies. But at the same time, if you have a person by themselves owning all the mines,
That's the same problem.
then you're gonna stifle innovation all over again.
Mhm.
And the problem is that what do? You can't forcefully take their property, otherwise anybody could forcefully take anybody's property, and that just becomes this giant nightmare of who gets to own what property. But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, they could lease it out. They could try to make money off of it. They could, but what happens if they just hike their prices up? What do? Do we just not have computers? Do we not have cell phones? Do we not have video games? We do not have TVs. We don't have anything electronical because it all requires this. Now, there is the possibility that we come up with an alternative solution
Mhm.
where it doesn't, where they become obsolete. Then you'd have to
True.
have an abundance of whatever is necessary, but you have to have the right conductive stuff. You have to have the amount of it available, yada, yada, yada. We can't just cut down every tree that we see everywhere and just hope they all grow in
Right.
like a year.
So, what's the current setup exactly with? Because I'm not a lawyer, of course, right? I
The
don't
current
know
setup
all
for
this
what?
stuff. For say you design a new electrical system or whatever that makes something super efficient, and you produce stuff with it or something, and you make that a copyright. How
You
long would
saying like
that last?
the current thing? You typically do patents for that, but yeah.
Yeah, what I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called.
I mean,
It's the same
trademark,
idea.
copyright, and patent are different, distinct, different things. But if you're coming up with like a technological idea, you would look at a patent. Like Nintendo is a trademark.
Yes.
So if you're trying to use Nintendo as your company name or something, there'd be a trademark on it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't necessarily think you need per se the trademark. I'd have to think about that a bit more. But copyright and patents, like there's some things you shouldn't be able to patent. And again, that's where we come back to the Pal World and Pokemon fight. Like
Mhm.
what they're saying, oh, we're going to get you for this, that shouldn't be patentable. But here's
Yeah.
the thing, if any schmuck country can just come along and say, we're going to patent that, so we're the country that has that, and then nobody
The
else
rest
can
of the
have it,
world will just laugh at them and call it a day,
that
right?
causes diplomatic problems and it just goes all over the place and
Well,
it's
to
just
be
nasty.
fair, the one country caused it, so they're
The
in
one
the
country.
wrong. The one that did
But
the patent, right?
Japan?
Well, I don't know. Did they do specifically as a country that?
Well, no. Nintendo did the patent in Japan. Japan's
Yeah,
going to
no, but
honor
we're
that patent.
talking about the example of one country saying, "Oh, we're the country that does this. It's ours now. We patent it."
I mean, in law and court, they'll hold it up in favor of those
Sure,
who have the patent. But the
but
problem
their
is that
laws won't work in other countries. So
yes, but distribution, like if you wanted to distribute your product into their country, they won't allow it because it's breaking trademark laws, or they'll be finding you every single time. Like
sure,
Russia, I think is right now fining Google, like was it 10 decathlon or something like that?
don't
It's
know.
like it's what they're fining them, and it doubles every day. What they're fining them is literally greater than the entire GDP of the entire planet
Damn.
combined. All because they're banning Russians from using YouTube.
But to be fair, that's kind of bad in its own way.
Yeah. Because, well, one, it's discrimination.
Mhm.
Two, they're like, oh, well, we just don't want. Google's just kind of like rolling their eyes and laughing them off. And I'm sitting here going, like, I mean, the corporation can just laugh you off because everyone doesn't like Russia at the moment.
Yeah. Wait a minute. What happened to diversity and inclusion?
Well, it's all good and dandy unless you're Russian. But that's the problem with like laws in any way, because like China ignores all the laws.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
don't care what laws have because everybody uses them because it's practically slave labor.
Mhm.
It's stupid cheap.
Yep.
I think they make like $2 a day or some nonsense.
I don't know.
And I was just like, that means you can make stuff for like sell it for $80 and it costs you
Mhm.
like less than $2 to make because
But
it costs $2 for a whole
they
bunch.
benefit, of course, because all the
They don't,
production
though.
goes there.
Well, it benefits the people who own the companies, does not benefit the workers
Yeah,
in
no,
the
I
slightest.
mean, I'm not saying it
It
benefits the
also
people
funds the
necessarily.
CCP. Imagine if
I'm
everyone just
saying
pulled out of
it
China.
benefits the country, and with
Yeah.
that, mostly those in charge.
But that's what I'm
So
saying.
it's
If
a smart move
if
on China's
everybody
end.
well, on the Chinese part, sure. But that's because no one's going to fight them because everybody goes
Mhm.
there because it's cheap. But when you have slave labor, yeah, slave labor is the most effective economic use. That's why it was used in the entire of human history, literally since humans existed,
Mhm. Yep.
all the way up until what, a couple hundred years ago. Like,
Industrial Revolution mostly.
well, no, I mean like 1800s.
Oh yeah, I
and
mean
stuff.
in the West it stopped in.
I mean, technically in the 1700s, is that when English abolitionists and whatever, like the late 1700s?
Yeah, but I think that's roughly
Wilberforce and all
similar in
that
time
jazz.
to the
But even
Industrial
then,
Revolution.
that was in one small area while the rest of the world was still operating under that
Mhm.
prejudice and
Yeah,
stuff. Today, we still have slavery in
Yeah.
parts of the world. So it's like,
In
yeah,
most of the world, you
the
could even say
places,
probably.
well, the non-Western
Maybe
world, there's a good chunk of it. But
most is probably.
mostly in that little middle area
Mhm.
of the world. But the places that have that are
Yes, the
going to
middle,
have
the core of the world.
the
Yes.
middle. I didn't say the core, the middle of the world.
What is the middle?
The middle on the non-Western side. Don't hurt your brain thinking
Do
too
we
hard.
include South America as Western?
No, but I don't know of much going on in that area except for just tyrannical rule in general.
Fair. Fair.
Tyrannical rule by default makes everyone slaves.
Yeah.
But if you were to pull, if every nation just like no company is allowed to buy from China,
Mhm.
China would collapse.
Yep.
Because the CCP is getting their money off of all the stuff that you're buying from them.
Mhm. But no
They
one does
tax
it.
their people. It's not like the people don't pay money. it's a silly concept. But like everyone's like, slavery's bad. Now I'm gonna go buy all this really cheap stuff from slave labor. It's like,
Wait a minute.
but don't you dare imply that you have to buy from your local nation, like wherever you live, because if you
Mhm.
do that, that means you hate everybody else in the world and you're a bigot. It's like, or I just don't want to promote slave labor. There's that too. Or you want to prevent trade. You want to box us in and make us all like slaves to
Yeah.
our government. It's like,
Nationalist. How dare you?
yeah, national. And there's bad nationalists and there's good nationalists. And you should be a good nationalist. You
No,
shouldn't be a
there's
bad
only bad
nationalist.
ones.
Apparently.
I've been told that by
You
some
should be in
people.
favor of your economy flourishing. But I
Yes.
also am in favor of the government
No,
being
wait,
out
that's
of
illegal.
economy.
What?
It's in Europe. I'm in favor of the government being out of economy completely. They can protect the economy, but they can't
Mm,
affect the economy.
I think you need at least a few, let's say, rules to prevent monopolies and such.
Well, yeah, that's built in. That's just saying if somebody is overall like, okay, a monopoly, it's like when they go out and because most monopolies in modern time are built because the government has rules and regulations which suppress other people from becoming
Yeah.
opponents. So if you remove those regulations because they shouldn't be there to begin with,
No, but if you
people
remove
pop up.
the government entirely from the economy, that means that monopolies will naturally arise because they are
No,
simply.
no,
Yeah,
no, not in a free economy, not in a capitalistic economy.
it does
So
because
no, in free
the
market, competition
big
is what thrives.
companies, sure,
Yeah,
but
I know what you're
you
going to
can't
lead to.
compete
I know what you're
against
leading
the
to.
super big ones because they can buy
I
you out.
know.
They can force you to go
That's the
bankrupt.
other thing is that the classification of corporation means that you're at the whims of whoever owns the majority percentage
Mhm.
of your things. That's a government-based classification. So if you remove that as a classification, like for example, let's say I start a game
What do you
company,
mean with classification? It's just
corporate. So a company that buys, like a corporation can't come into my small business and force me to sell to them.
Sure,
They
but
cannot
the
do that.
corporation,
But if I
without
have
government
shareholders and they
influence,
buy the majority shares, they can hostile take over me. That's how
sure.
it happens most of the time.
But see, the issue is not that.
What's
The issue is that the corporation can temporarily, say, lower their prices to below yours,
Uh-huh.
force you to either also lower your prices and
Uh-huh.
run into deficit, making you go bankrupt.
Not necessarily. For one thing, if the monopoly laws were enforced, which enforcing a law against monopolies doesn't inherently affect the economy.
Sure.
It would stabilize it. It's not telling you how much you can or cannot sell something for, or you can and can't what
Mhm.
you can and cannot sell. But what it does is it prevents one from coming in. Now, if we were to enforce monopoly laws right now, a lot of those big corporations would be broken up as monopolies in their areas.
Yeah.
Because of a variety of reasons. Like it's not just one singular reason. It
Sure.
could be that they're the only person in the area because local laws like, oh, you can't. Because I looked into doing an ISP where I'm at, internet service provider,
Mhm.
where I could host one myself and sell it to people I know, and
Mhm.
then get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then start popping up in other
Yeah, but
cities and
that's
everything.
illegal.
Kind of. Because if I was to go to my local government,
Yeah, but that's a bad law.
well, it is a bad law, but the local government gets lobbyists from these other companies to prevent
no, I get
anyone
that.
from coming in. And unless you're a big enough company that can shove your way in,
Mhm.
which not many of those exist, usually you have like 2 ISPs in an area.
Mhm.
The reason there's 2 is
Yeah,
because they want the other one there, so they're not a
I get
monopoly.
that. I get that.
But in some areas you can't
But the
have 2, so then you are the monopoly, which would cause you to be broken up.
Mhm.
And then there's the economic bounce where it's like, okay, if you have these big companies, well, they all came from small companies.
Mhm.
So a small company becomes a big company. What if you cut it off at a certain top and it has to go back down? What's the incentive to becoming big?
True. Yeah.
Because if like Walmart started out really small and the guy built it up around his family and went up, 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 and he just did things right. And he made it a big company. Everybody else apparently was inept and incapable of doing such a thing.
Sure.
But what makes Walmart effective is their logistics. So if
Mhm.
their logistics is doing really, really good and other people can copy their logistics, technically anybody could arguably become a next Walmart.
Right. Except you need wealth to set up stuff.
Well, that's the thing is government puts limits on things. Like you have to register your business. And you
Mhm.
have to pay a certain amount of money to register your business. Then you have to
Yeah,
pay
that
fees and stuff on top of that.
I agree.
That's all
That should go
government.
away.
That's all government interference.
Mhm.
But if you just want to set up your lemonade stand and sell the freaking best lemonade on this planet and then sell it for a better price than everybody else who has inferior, you can do that.
Yeah.
What that's supposed to do is to force the other lemonade
Mhm.
stands to do better and make better lemonade, make it healthier, make it
Sure, but
less
that's all
artificial
small scale
preservatives,
stuff.
yada yada. I know, but the idea is that whatever is in a small scale can be duplicated in a large scale. This is where it comes to like Star Wars. A person like Star Wars Theory, who has 3.3 million-ish followers, it might be up, it might be low, I don't know. He's over 3 million. That's all I know.
Mhm.
He's the largest YouTuber for Star Wars.
Sure.
He's like the largest face of Star Wars of anything that's not Lucasfilm, and I think even has probably Lucasfilm over on YouTube specifically over their amount of people. It might have changed, I
Mhm.
don't remember. But if he wants to go out and make a good Star Wars film to compete with the Star Wars that Lucasfilm has, you're saying that, well, he doesn't have the ability to. He won't be able to. Well, he obviously can. He did it his own money. But
Mhm.
what happens if he makes a production that
Well,
rivals that of Lucasfilm?
that's slightly different though.
Well, only as different as you want it to be. He's doing this without anyone helping him, but there are people who would help him, and he'd make a lot more money and have a lot
Yeah,
bigger production.
but see, the products are not interchangeable in that case.
What do you mean?
So his movie is going to be entirely different than someone else's movie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the problem with that?
That's not a problem. That's why he can do his thing. But if
What do you mean?
he can do that in a capitalist free market society and be successful because the
Okay.
others aren't making the same thing as him. So he's
But you don't
not
have to make the
directly
same to make
No,
it.
I get that. I get that.
Like
It's
you could have
because
him
it's
do one and
different
somebody
that
else do a different one.
Mhm.
It's whoever makes it better is who's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
get the support. So
But
that's the
see,
initiative
mhm.
and innovation comes in.
But
You're
that's
trying to make it best.
different for creative artwork than for regular everyday goods, right?
Like what?
So let's say, I don't know, let's go slightly larger scale. Cars, right?
Okay.
You have the established car companies. Let's go to Europe because I'm more familiar with that. Let's say
I don't know anything about
Volkswagen.
your cars except for like Volkswagen or something.
Yeah, let's take that.
BMW.
So they make cars. They know how to do that, and
You
let's
also make
say
Nazi stuff.
they also do that. But let's not talk about that
We
right
don't
now.
talk about that. Yeah, go ahead.
But let's say a new car company sets up in, for example, the Netherlands, because why not, right?
Because you're
And
all
they
Nazis.
make their own local cars.
Yeah.
But because it's a high wealth investment to get to the point of setting that up, it's going to start small.
Well, everything usually when it's first
Mhm.
beginning starts
Yeah.
small by definition.
It's going to start small.
There
But
are exceptions
Volkswagen
to that rule, though. There are
is
wealthy people who just throw a lot of money at
sure,
something and they can go
sure.
faster. But
Um,
generally speaking, they start
generally
small.
speaking, but that's still rich people who are already rich, right?
Yeah. Well, there's no limit
It,
to your expansive ideas. It's just a
sure.
matter of not how successful you're going to
Mhm.
be. If you're being as innovative and putting out as much as you can of whatever it is, your odds are you're not going to be bouncing into too many areas
Mhm.
because then you have to hire more people that might be able to do stuff when you're not looking, and it becomes more of their company rather than your company.
Yeah,
So
I
like
get that.
it
But
gets a little crazy in that
you
regard. But
have in your new company small, you can still make some cars.
okay,
Let's say they are better than the Volkswagen
okay.
cars. Sure.
Does that inspire Volkswagen to do better or just close down?
Possibly, yes.
Because if they close down, that
Maybe.
frees up natural resources
But
for somebody else to do it too.
what they
It's like,
can do is just say, okay, you operate over there, and let's maybe sell super cheap Volkswagen autos in the region.
okay.
Then people there could say, okay, we go for the expensive, better version, but much more will go for the cheap alternative, meaning very few people will buy from the small company.
Well, also think of it this way though. You have to put in because I had to recently look for a new vehicle because mine got totaled. But I had to look for stuff. And I was looking
Mhm.
specifically for a Subaru because Subaru makes really good stuff. They're really high
Sure.
quality and
Mhm.
whatnot, and they're actually moderately priced. They're not like crazy expensive or whatever. Even
Okay.
the older vehicles. And I'm not looking at anything like brand new because I never buy brand new. Because if you buy brand new, you might as well just be throwing money into your furnace and burning it because
Yeah.
that's its value.
Though, of
But
course, you do need to be careful with secondhand.
well, yes, you got to know basic
Mhm.
things, but it's also depending on who you're buying it from.
Yeah.
And then they also have things like Carfax, which is another part of the industry that pops in and utilizes off of another industry. And
Mhm.
somebody else could easily just come along and make a Carfax equivalent and just make money off of that too. Just you got to put more effort into what
Right.
that when Carfax is build a higher reputation than Carfax, yada yada yada. It's all business building, and you got to do it either way.
Mhm.
But when I'm looking for a Subaru, I found out that the only vehicles really worth investing in, if you're looking for like long term, which if you're not, you got problems.
Mhm.
Outside of obviously mechanics who can do whatever they want whenever they want, basically with whatever they have in their Tupperware drawer. But if you're looking at the average person, you got to look for something like Fords and Dodges have some of the worst. Like they break down all the time. They're moderately cheap, but they break down all the time, which comes out of your pocket
Mhm.
a lot, and then you end up spending more than what one of the nicer cars might be. But then you have other cars like BMWs and Mercuries that are like pretty high up. They're expensive. But, like, anything that's foreign made, like BMWs, you have to go to, like, a BMW approved mechanic because
Mhm.
everybody else doesn't know how to personally fix them in an area that doesn't make them. Like, in America, we make American cars and stuff. So we have lots of people who understand American stuff. But if you
Mhm.
want to go for a German car like Volkswagen or BMW or something, or my personal favorite, Mini Coopers, Italian,
Okay. Yep.
or is it Fiat, however, Fiat, whatever you
That
say that.
sounds French, but who
I
knows?
think it's Italian, but it could be French. I don't know.
Well,
It's
could
European.
be Italian.
Either way, they're fun cars, but the maintenance on them makes them ridiculously expensive. So if you're looking at this ridiculously expensive like long-term plan, it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. Like if I could get Mini Cooper parts and replacements and stuff for 20 years, I'd buy a Mini Cooper if it was the same price as anything else because I like Mini Coopers. But the
Mhm.
fact is, I have to pay more because there's less of them in the market circulating in a different country that's on
Makes sense.
literally a different continent from where
Mhm.
they are. And they always stop doing parts after like a 10-year span. And then they start making other vehicles a different way that don't share the same parts and stuff.
Sure.
Some car brands do, other cars don't. Most don't. So you can't just be like, oh, the brand new 2025s are coming out. They have the same parts as the 1992 guys. They don't do
Yeah,
that.
obviously that doesn't work because
Well,
they're
no, it can
different
work.
technology.
It can work for a majority of the parts.
Sure.
Like
sure.
for example,
like wheels, for example, right?
like
They
Pontiac,
probably would work.
Pontiac, and I think is it GMC? Pontiac and another company have interchangeable parts despite them being different brands.
Mhm.
Or no, it might be Toyota. It might be Toyota. Toyota and like
Don't know.
whatever the brand is. Pontiac went out of business. They no longer make cars. They're no
Oh
longer
no.
a thing. But their car can have you can interchange it with other things. So buying a Pontiac used
Mhm.
isn't as bad as you might think in terms of just buying it. Obviously, the maintenance, upkeep, and all that has to come into play as well. But in just buying it, it's not a bad deal because it's not like they're going to run out of parts. If they ran out of parts, don't buy it because it's literally just scrap at this point. You can't repair it unless you have a welder come in and weld all the parts you need of the same material type and all that stuff. Like it's not worth the money or the effort. So what you do is you go look for the better cars. So I ended up with Toyota, Honda, and Subaru being the only three that were long-term reliable that have a very positive feedback for durability.
Okay.
There are other ones like Hyundai was not too far behind them. It's not quite as sturdy, but it is still a decent one. But it also depends because apparently some of the Hyundais have security issues where people can carjack them really easily, all that kind of stuff. But pretty
Yeah,
much
I mean,
every other brand,
could be
from
anything.
all the mechanics and the dealers I know, almost all of them swore off everybody else but those three: Toyota, Honda, and Subaru.
Okay.
My dad owns a Subaru. My brother owns a Subaru. And they swear by them. I look at their records. They got longevity to them. So it makes sense to go Subaru, even if you might not like the colors or the shapes and stuff. Like sometimes they're a little funky. But it also depends on what you're buying and why you're buying it. Like
Mhm.
Dodge is maybe shifty, but the Dodge Grand Caravan is like the safest car on the market because it's a minivan and it's designed to protect families. So if you're looking for a minivan, despite Dodge being pretty bad overall in terms of overall maintenance, the
Yeah, it
minivan
does
they
sound
have
kind
is
does
the top
sound
tier.
kind of dodgy. Yes.
Did I give that one to you?
Yeah.
I got all my little clips on Streamlabs. I don't have it on here, sadly. Otherwise, I'd put some really funny ones out. But so if you want a minivan, the top of the line minivan with the best safety ratings and the best long durability is the Dodge Grand Caravan. That's their
Okay.
specialization. They specialize in that minivan.
Yeah. Fair.
Everything else they have, but they're not as good. They're not as durable. You know, blah 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 blah. They have a lot of problems, a lot of maintenance, and everything. They'll cost you a lot of money in the long run. Fords are cheap, but they have a lot of maintenance coming in all the time. Subaru even has a deal right now where if you buy one like practically brand new or whatever, they have a warranty that basically says from when you buy it till it's like literally stops dead, it has a warranty for virtually any part, and it's all covered by Subaru. It's a pretty expensive warranty, but it's like $3,000 or something. But going into a Subaru place and just everything down to oil changes is just part of that warranty. You need a new catalytic converter, boom, fixed. Doesn't cost you additional. Those kind of deals, really, really good. Jump on those if you can find them in your area or whatever. but obviously it's not going to hit the used market. It's going to be more of the newer vehicles, like the last 5 years or something.
Yeah.
But in that sense, you got to think about the longevity of buying it. So even if you have your Volkswagens or your BMWs or whatever, in Europe, maybe those are a good deal. Here, they're a bit pricey and they have a lot of caveats attached to them. So even if you had them selling for cheaper, if they break down more and if there's more parts required more consistently, yeah, you might buy it for half the price as the expensive car. But by the time you go 5 years with that vehicle, you've already bought the expensive car twice. It's that kind of
Well,
a
that
thing where
depends on the
well,
details, of course.
I'm giving
It's
like
an
a
example. Yeah.
I'm giving an example of like how that could happen. So when I buy something electronically, because I'm very picky about electronics, when I buy a used system for like my PS5 was used, I bought it from somebody who cleaned the sucker out. They went through and made sure everything worked. There's no marks on it. All the software worked. It's not old. It's not been like overused and it's dying. They'll like replace the hard drives and all that type of stuff if it's necessary, and then they'll turn around and sell it to you at a flat rate like all their others. I trust them because I have a history with them. But other than that, I usually almost always buy brand new.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the older systems, like I want to get a Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's
I can't even
you're not going
find
to
a
get there.
Dreamcast anywhere. They're impossible to find. But I want one because I want to collect them for the old sake. Because I have a dream of collecting all the consoles at some point with all their like
All of them?
hidden stuff. Yeah, all of them.
Every single one that ever existed? Damn.
I have Asperger's, dude. I gotta
Fair
collect
enough.
stuff.
Fair enough. Okay.
And I collect things that I enjoy, and I'm really passionate about video games. I'm passionate about Lord of the Rings. I'm passionate about Wheel of Time. I'm passionate about my music. I'm passionate about stories. I'm passionate about, well, all the fantasy or sci-fi or whatever it might be. It could be books, it could be manga. I like that stuff. So that's the stuff you want to chat about. We'll just talk for 5 million years, and I'm cool with that. But I
Talking
also
about
wanna buy.
which, I would probably
We're getting close. We're getting close.
want to end it soonish.
You've got another 6 hours. It's all good. But yeah. So in terms of the comparison of buying something, the longevity of it. If I'm paying, $36,000 for a Subaru, and you're selling a Volkswagen or a BMW for 12,000,
Yeah,
but
could
the
be. I don't know.
12,000 one's falling apart every month,
Mhm.
and you're replacing a part for $400 every time. How many parts do you have to go through before you already hit what the other expensive one is that has very little maintenance on it,
Sure.
and it's going to go
How expensive was that one exactly in your example?
36,000. So
36,000?
those are both extremely lowballing for brand
Yeah,
new
no,
vehicles, by the way.
Mhm.
They're more like 60,000 usually for the brand new stuff. I know. I guess anywhere between 30
So
some
that would
thousand.
be
36,000 versus like 12,000.
exactly 5 years.
So 5 years. Now, keep in mind there will be maintenance on the new stuff, the more expensive stuff, but you're like, for example, a Subaru, Toyota, and a Honda will go to like 300,000 miles. The average other vehicle, like a Ford or a Dodge, will go to maybe.
This is assuming, by the way, every month you have to get a 400.
Well, it's
because
it's
that was the
assuming that
example.
there's
Yeah.
something every time going wrong, and it gets specific tires. Some tires are more expensive. Some of them are $200 for a full set. Sometimes they're $400 for a full set. Some of them are 1,000 for a full set. It depends on the size, the shape, how much weight they have to hold. Blah 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 blah. There's a lot, too many factors. I'm not even a mechanic.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I
not
know
either.
a lot of the stuff because I had to look over it and be like, okay, well, how much is it going to cost me? What's the gas cost versus this, that, and the other? So, do you want a full SUV or do you want a mini SUV? Because mini SUVs have better gas mileage, but full SUVs have more space. In my opinion, if you're going to go full SUV, you might as well go minivan because they're huge and they're gas guzzlers. At least a minivan I can do a lot more with, in my personal opinion, especially if you have lots of kids. But if you're going through a vehicle, you're like, well, I can go 200,000 miles, or let's say 150,000 miles for a BMW Volkswagen for $12,000, right? You get 150,000 miles, but you can get 300,000 out of that Subaru for 36,000, right? Well, 300 That means you, at a bare minimum, would have to buy 2 Volkswagens or BMWs, whatever it is, to equal the same amount of mileage.
Yeah.
That puts you at 24,000 immediately to get double what it is.
Yeah.
Or if you decide to upgrade to the other one, you got 12,000 plus the 36,000. But the 36,000, if you bought in the first place, would have saved you 12,000 and lasted long enough to where you possibly would have new technology come out by that point, which makes them even cheaper to produce, and then also can go longer. Or maybe the parts are aplenty, and that's the whole point. Is that
no, you have to basically calculate which one's better.
You're calculating a whole bunch, and I decided that these 3, ironically all Japanese, were the best of the options. And the
Is
fourth
that
one,
ironic
which is
though?
it is kind of ironic because the Japanese just totally make stuff better for some reason. But the ironically, number 4 was Korean, so it's kind of like, man, the Asians got that one down into hot science.
Damn.
Also, screw
What happened to the Germans?
The 8-hour weekday. What happened to the Germans? I don't know.
DEI, right?
The Germans wanted to make a lot of money, so they sell things for a lot more expensive, and they did not make them very, very good for whatever reason. I'm not saying that these big 3, Toyota, Honda, and Subaru, never have problems, but they're less likely to have problems. They have fewer recalls. They have fewer parts burning out on you early. Yada yada yada. There's obviously exceptions to every rule, but on average, they survive a lot longer with less maintenance. You still got to maintenance them properly and everything, but in that maintenance, you're going to expect that maintenance on both vehicles anyway. So beyond that extra maintenance, everything else is going to happen more often because you're paying less. If you buy a TV for $50, but then you buy a TV for $800, you're expecting the $800 one to last longer than the $50 one.
Generally, yes.
Because they're putting cheaper parts in the $50 one, and it's not going to do as well in the long term. That's expected. That's why when you look at things price-wise, just because it's cheap does not mean it's better. Because I don't ever say I want the cheapest.
Also, just because it's expensive
does not mean it's good. I agree. But that's why you have review systems. That's why you have longevity.
If they work, right? Because we did see the Veilguards, so...
Yes, but the lack of review systems isn't a review system per se. We also had all the people making reviews about them not getting the review codes. That's also red flags. There's more. Not everybody looks at those, obviously, but it's very, very rare. Now, in terms of like if you were to make either a car company or something else, like in a free market, you could have your own business, which is literally just buying stuff and testing it out and giving reviews on it, or getting them like from the dealers or from a car from a dealer and say, hey, we want one of your vehicles, and they give them to them for free, and then they just look at it and they drive it, and then they give a basic review and say, anybody who's withholding their vehicles probably is worried they're not going to do good. Now, you'd also have to have some oversight in that, because otherwise somebody could be paying you to give somebody else a bad review or something. Like, there's always something like that to worry about, but you're going to have that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, if other people come out, because you're not going to just be the one company doing this. You're going to be one of many companies doing this. And if you have 50 different companies coming out with roughly the same score, well, that's too many to bribe for every single one of them. And especially since they come out with new cars literally every year. It's just too expensive to try to keep somebody else down, because then all those companies are going to pay the other ones to keep the other ones down, and then you're not really doing anything effective. So just make better products. But if that's the case, you have lots of review points pointing at it, and you do basically the same thing for reviewing video games. Well, they didn't give us, which we're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, review company for this particular product. They didn't give us the review product code. That's a red flag, and you can put that review out.
They don't give it to us, right?
Well, if you're the biggest car reviewing company and they don't send you a product to review, but they give it to other people, it's not. Oops, you slipped our minds.
Whoopsie.
Marketing would hang you if you missed the biggest opportunity for them to sell things.
Yeah.
So you don't do that unless you're selling a bad product.
Yeah.
That's why you gotta. It sounds arrogant if they're like, I didn't get a review copy and I should have gotten a review copy. But also look at the numbers. If they have 1.2 million people or 400,000 people or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is.
I don't really care.
whatever the number is, if they're big enough to have an audience that would be interested in this product, and you bypass them and give it to somebody with 20,000, that's a red flag.
Slightly suspicious.
That's pretty largely suspicious.
Yeah, okay, fair. Maybe a bit more than
Humongously
slightly.
suspicious. So that's the kind of mentality. But to the point of IPs, if it's a free economy, a free market economy, which I believe can only exist in America, potentially South Korea. But
Why only in America?
Because everybody else has tyrannical governments.
Yeah, but you're going to have one soon anyway, right?
Possibly. I got a week to figure that out. Or a couple days from the this drop of this video. But whether or not that happens or not, at least we have the means to get rid of
Sunday?
that. It's Tuesday.
3rd. Okay. So
5th, whatever the 5th is. The 5th.
So that's like 2 days after the video happens.
That's what I said. But
yeah.
If we had no, because capitalism, in order for capitalism to exist, it has to, by definition, not have government interference. Now, government, and this is where Matt and I will disagree, because Matt's like, but the government coming in with, like, you know, laws, like judges and stuff is interference. No, that's not interference. Interference is saying you have to sell this product at this much, or you can only sell X amount of this product at this time.
Or
like
you're not allowed to sell this product.
Those types of things. Now,
though I think we should probably have certain stuff be forbidden.
No, here's the thing about the free market. It regulates itself.
Yeah, but
people who don't support a product, that product just fizzles out and dies.
That's fair.
If you have like a cereal company and you put poison in it, you're not going to have people coming buying your stuff. But also, if you're putting content in it that is going to make people sick and people die from it, they can still sue you.
No, if you put a disclaimer, if you buy this,
that's not how it works.
No,
you can't just willfully sign your stuff away because you looked at a screen that said, well, if you look at my screen, you are waiving your rights to do this. You can't do that. The contracts have to be specifically and explicitly between both parties and signed. If they don't want to sign it, well, don't make that product that requires that.
Okay.
But you can say, with the assumption...
So why is no one suing like all the cigarette companies for lung cancer and stuff?
Because government protection. Now, I do believe that if you do something that you know is harmful, you have, like, everybody knows cigarettes can give you cancer. If you go out and do it, you're an idiot, and you deserve what you get. You should do your own homework. Nobody's responsible for you and your choices except you, because one of the things that kills economies is the lack of responsibility and the lack of making your own decisions and self-determination. If you want to go and put a whole bunch of things in your face, like rings, metal, whatever, knock yourself out. Not literally, obviously, but if that prevents you from getting a job because they don't want you,
literal knockout for those people.
I'm just saying, they can do whatever they want. But if they go that route and it prevents them from getting a high-paying job, that's their fault. It's not the company's fault for not wanting you to be the face of their company. But it's not also discriminatory for that company to not hire you because they want a certain feel about their company, and you don't fit that feel.
Yeah, I'm not sure which. No, not discriminate. I was looking for like a specific word, like say ableism, but for people with
ableism's when you let people do whatever they want.
Right.
And
so it's anti-piercingism. That's it. I just made it up.
Well, no, it's like when people with tattoos go to get office work, they wear long sleeves because they have to look presentable. Now, some people think we're past those times, whatever. That's up to the company. If the company's past it, then knock yourself out, dude. There's lots of things you can do. But if the company's not past it, don't expect them to hire you just because you have all the qualifications. If they want one of the qualifications have,
freedom of association, right?
More or less, yeah. But it's also like the right to hire and fire somebody based upon, like, if they hire you because you have the visual presentation and then you walk into work the next day and you're covered in tattoos and piercings and that's not what they want, they should be able to fire you instantly. There's no discrimination in that. That's just saying you do not represent our company properly to the guidelines we want it to be. That's their right. Go. There are plenty of other companies that'll be like, we don't care. Go work there. That's the places. Why would you want to work for somebody who doesn't want you anyway? But that's a whole
Maybe
different thing.
because it pays really well.
Maybe, but are you saying that no other job that doesn't care doesn't pay very well?
Well,
And if
that might
anything,
be.
if you and people around you believe that it should be okay to hire people with tattoos and piercings and stuff that makes them all look different than the average person
Mhm.
that you'd expect that's just not have any of those, if they all don't shop at that place and they shop at the other place, that company's going to go boop because they support what you're doing. The other one's going to go boop at very little pieces and rates, or it'll shrink because they are losing customers. That's how you play the market. The market will adjust to the whims of the consumer. If you go to a cereal company, if you make a cereal company, but you put poison in your cereal, you're either A, going to kill your customers off so they won't buy your cereal, or
Yeah, good point.
B, people will just cease
Seems
to buy
like
it because they don't like what's in your content or
Mhm.
in your product. And if that's the case, you put a lot of money into something because you thought it'd be cheap, and then you are now out of business and in debt because you don't
Yeah,
have the money to
but
fund.
what if it's a poison that is really slow acting and will only kill you after,
Well,
say,
smart
30
people
years?
would have, because this is another thing of self-regulation, is that the market can
Mhm.
have businesses that test these things. They take a box of this cereal, they pour it in, they look at it from a scientific perspective, break down the molecules and say, okay, here's all the ingredients to this thing, basically reverse engineer something and say, here's problems. Like we knew about like lead paint and stuff. We know that now. They didn't know that
Mhm.
back in the olden days. But now that we know that, we can look at it and say, oh, there's lead paint in this. It's like, well, we probably shouldn't use that. And we're probably not going to give it a good review because we found these things. Because it's like hiring a scientist. What is in my product or what is in their product, because I don't want to buy their product if what's in it. Now, if somebody just says, I don't care, they go buy it, then they're going to have to suffer the consequences. But if you buy it for your kids, not caring, and you poison your kids with stuff you bought, you're the parent, you're responsible. You're probably
Mhm.
going to jail because you're
Fair, yeah.
responsible for the parent as a parent for the children who can't make their own decisions.
Mhm.
That's how that works. Like personal responsibility makes everything easier in an economy, which is why for IPs, whether it be for the economy, whatever the case might be, everything will work naturally and inherently like it already does. Like you can bootleg stuff in China. It's already getting bootlegged. You can already rip things off and do your own parodies and stuff. It's
Yeah.
doable. So in this case, letting law-abiding citizens do it is going to produce better content, which stifles the bad content, because the bad
Mhm.
content, no one's going to give it a second of thought, while there's good content, even if it's not official license. An unofficial license that still profits the original license owner helps everyone involved. Imagine being an author and somebody else writes a novel using your characters and your story background and everything, and they're sending you $300 million a year because they're making bank because everyone likes their story. You don't even have to write anymore. You could literally just be like, I'm going to live a vacation life with my family and we're going to spend every day at Disney World or whatever. Obviously, provided it's a good Disney World,
Yeah.
Universal Studios or whatever. Like,
Sure.
you could do
Sure.
whatever you wanted. And it benefits everybody. But if you're like, no, I want all of the money, well, you're not going to get all the money because less people are going to be interested. You're going to do what Star Wars did. Disney bought it for $4 billion or something, 4.2 billion or something like that.
I don't know.
And
A
then
lot of money.
it's over 4 billion. I know that. But
And
buy
now
it for
they have
4 billion,
acolytes.
and not ever, and all the stuff since they have bought Star Wars has never made an overall profit. They've never beaten that 4 billion bill
Damn.
they made. It's never happened, and it won't happen because they keep making crap. The more they make crap, the less likely they're going to be to make stuff. But if somebody like Star Wars Theory shows up, makes $1.5 billion off of his first Star Wars title, they instantly get 300 million out of that. Boom, right? But here's the kicker. It's going to be based off of what he makes, not off of what he initially puts into it. So if he makes 300 million, they're only going to get 20% of that. It's not going to be like, you owe us 300 million. So that he can make the film for 10 million and make 1.5 billion, pay the 300 million, and the rest is pure profit. Then he can put out more movies and make another bill. Star Wars Theory could arguably outpace the $4 billion before Disney does.
Damn.
Because he knows, he's passionate about it and he knows what he wants to do with it. The same thing could be if Gary from Nerdrotic, or literally anybody who, like myself, is passionate about Lord of the Rings, goes out and makes a Tolkien film.
Mm-hmm.
It's that easy. It should be that easy because that's how easy it would be to do. how easy to do a good video game? Well, if you get a couple devs that are all passionate about it and they could figure out a payment plan or something for all of them get happy after their first main job, they go home and they do a little programming for an hour or two every single day. By the end of a couple of years, you could have a product, and then when that's done, everybody makes money. I don't know how they do it because I'm not in that industry. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'd probably have to take a mortgage on my house to pay people, but I'd rather not have that. But if you were to do that, you turn around and say, okay, well, we worked hard for a long period of time with either very little pay or no pay, just off of pure passion. And then now we made profit. We split the profit, however we agree to do so. And now we're each millionaires, whatever the case might be, because we know how to make a profit because we know what to make for the customer. And the customer wants this, so we give them this. That's something that Dragon Age Veilguard does not do. It doesn't give people Dragon Age. It gives them a Fortnite wannabe thing that, from what I understand, has horrible combat. Like, it's really boring. It's repetitive. It's not anything intuitive or anything like that. The dialogue's atrocious. The writing is atrocious. The graphics are meh. Like, they're better than Fortnite, but they're not Dragon Age tier. It'd be like, what would happen if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out with like Fortnite graphics? Would you buy it? Probably not.
Well, I mean, it depends really on the rest of the game as well.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you would expect at least Skyrim graphics, and you're getting Fortnite graphics, you'd be like,
yeah, that's probably
press
not,
X to doubt that that's a good game.
because indeed, likely the rest of the game will also be downgraded in a similar manner.
Probably. But the point being is that if you have expectations for them to go above your prior expectations of like Skyrim or whatever, or like every time you went from, was it Daggerfall was the second one, right? Whatever the original Elder Scrolls game, I don't even remember what it's called. You have Daggerfall, then you have Morrowind, then you have Oblivion.
Was before my days.
It was before my
in
time.
Like the way old prehistoric times. Yes.
In the dark times. But like you have Daggerfall, or whatever the first one was, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. You're expecting that jump in technology and additional stuff, like the bigger world every time.
Especially after 20 years.
Just from the last game.
Yeah.
But like that leap, your expectations are going to be up here. So if they drop it at here, you're like, you didn't even put effort in your graphics. That doesn't mean, that means you're not probably putting effort in anything else. Now, granted, if the story's good and the gameplay's good, people might be willing to overlook it.
So
it will still be disappointing, though.
If we look at Starfield, right?
I'd rather not.
Okay. But let's assume that is some sort of indication of the quality going forward.
Well, I think they're using a specific engine for
very hopeful.
6. I don't know what it is.
Could be, but
I believe they stopped using the normal one.
It's going to have
to
be
Bethesda, so I'm already naturally expecting it to kind of suck.
Fair.
I'm expecting the modders to have to do all the heavy lifting, because that's exactly what Bethesda thinks the modders are going to have to finish their game. Like, they don't even, like, we don't have, then this is part of the ableism that kind of drives me nuts about things. Is like, we don't have to finish it because the modders will do it for us. Excuse me. And people will buy it en masse just because. That to me is a crime against humanity. But I'm also not an enabler. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear just because, because if I'm your friend, I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, that's a terrible idea, because I do care about you and I don't want you to have to go through the bad stuff. That's why the whole Dragon Age Veilguard thing's silly, because it's like, oh, I'm going to do a Brav, or what was it called?
A Barf.
Barv. A barf.
But with a V, right? So no.
Barv. But I'm not going to be there sitting doing barves. I'm going to sit there and say, look, this is the way it is. I can find a nice way to say it. I can find a tactful way to say it. But one way or the other, I'm going to say it and be like, look, these people don't care about you. They just want a virtue signal. Here's your problem. You need to figure this out. Because like 9 times out of 10, you look at somebody like that, they were bullied, they were molested. There's a whole bunch of things that happened to them that caused them to end that way.
Yeah.
It's not like they just woke up one day, I'm going to be a woman, or I'm going to be a man. That didn't happen that way.
since we're back to Veilguard, current
That's an
players
IP
right
I wish we
now
could take over.
is 63,741. Remember that
It's
at the
dropping.
beginning of this video, it was roughly 68,700 something.
I mean, it's
Close
dinner
by.
time somewhere.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
also right
Baldur's
now.
Gate went down too by 4,000. So
Fair. Right now, it's also 6 p.m. in California. So
well, yeah. Well, I'd also point out a 24-hour peak for a game that's brand new, just came out at 70,414. Baldur's Gate 3, the 24-hour peak is 61,474.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a difference. That's like a real difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about a year? No, you said 2023.
3rd of August 2023 official release date.
14 months ago.
Yep.
14 months old game is almost equivalent to a brand new game. Keep in mind, more people are familiar with Dragon Age series than they are with Baldur's Gate series.
Mm-hmm.
Before these games came out. Like,
yeah.
Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were like hardcore RPG people would like them, but hands down, because more recently we've had more, because what is it, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 came out like the 90s?
Way,
or maybe early 2000s, like a long time ago, where Dragon Age came out after Baldur's Gate 2 and had multiple releases, at least 3 total releases before this one.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to know Dragon Age, be more familiar with it currently in this modern era than they are going to be with Baldur's Gate. So the fact that Baldur's Gate, granted, Baldur's Gate 3 is a phenomenal game and it's got a very loyal fan base because of it's just a fun game. It's D&D digitized. It's the best version of it we've seen so far. But because of that, you'd think that everybody would be dropping the Baldur's Gate stuff to go buy the Dragon Age the Veilguard to play it because it's an RPG kind of game. Unless they heard that there's a lot of red flags and a lot of this and a lot of that and all that stuff. It's just...
Indeed.
I mean, Baldur's Gate was made in 6 to 8 years. Might have been 8 years. Which is less time than the 9 years for the Veilguard. And it costs... oh gosh, how many? The cinematics alone was a ridiculous amount of hours, like thousands of hours or something, hundreds of hours of just cinematics. With dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't count them, so
it's ridiculous. But in that regard, it's just like that alone makes it a superior game, and they're really passionate about it. So I don't understand why people think that this isn't a problem.
But anyway,
so
we'll see what happens in the next, let's call it 48 hours.
Next week, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
we're
sure.
Be here until next week anyway.
But it looks not
it's
good.
It's looking rough.
Veilguard.
It's looking rough. Not gonna lie. Like, I mean,
numbers are going down really quickly. Well, I say really. There's not many.
They're going down at a reasonable
so...
pace of people getting off to go get dinner or go out to hang out with friends or something. I don't think on the average, the games that we like look the details up, that all these people are just like dedicated otaku gamers. And all they do is just sit there and play the game all day, every day. So these people have lives. They're doing stuff. But that's why, like, a 14-month-old game versus a brand new game, the fact the 14-month-old game is almost bypassing the brand new release is impressive. And considering, I mean, I can you can't do co-op on Dragon Age, can you?
I think it's single player only.
Because you can play multiplayer in it's just single player. There's not a whole lot you can do, but Baldur's Gate you can have up to 4. So you're getting more interaction off of a Baldur's Gate game than you are going to be off of a Dragon Age game. That's I mean, I'd rather have real people as people I can interact with and companion wise than I would, because like you and I and a couple other people can play Baldur's Gate 3 together and not need any other companions. We could just all play the roles ourselves and just gather them as followers throughout the game or whatever, or never interact with them at all. But They
So,
have followers,
when are
but
we
you can't
going
do
to
that
do that?
here. Huh?
When are we going to do that?
Probably when he has more free time. But
Fair.
anyway, so yeah, guys, let us know what you guys think in
Mhm.
the comments below, and if you got this far, because I know we like long form content, and you guys
So should we
may
do
or
an
may not care
update
about it as much. But
next week on the numbers?
if we remember,
Sure.
remember.
Well, yeah, maybe everyone has forgotten by then that this game exists.
I mean, if by next week they're having like every company or every reviewer under the sun is already going like, this is not the and we're looking at like, oh yeah, they got 1,000 players playing. I'd be like, yeah, it's just it failed.
yeah,
But we'll have to see, because we don't know what happens from now, because next week is going to have the election stuff. So who knows what's going to happen in that time period. Chaos will probably be ensuing.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Let's
to worry about.
wait and see which counties take a week this time to count.
I'm just betting that your area will get torched because of our elections than our area.
Probably, yeah.
Europe is so unstable. But yeah, if you guys want to leave a comment down below, what do you think about Dragon Age Veilguard? Do you think it's going to hold its own? Do you think it's still going to sell a lot? Because I mean, it made about at least 4.2 million already, and it could be more than that. We can't see all like the consecutive sales yet.
Mhm.
And then there's also Xbox and PlayStation. I'm pretty confident they're not putting it on a Nintendo Switch, because I don't think the Switch can power that. As far as I
Probably
could
not.
see, there's not a Nintendo version of it. But even if there was, very few people would probably buy it, because that's not what you get Nintendo stuff for.
Exactly.
But they did do
You
Dragon's
pay for
Dogma
Legend of Zelda,
1,
obviously.
so maybe. But yeah, leave a comment and let us know what you think in that regard. What do you guys think about my idea of the IPs, law, and stuff like that, or Sage's
I think
particular
it
views?
needs a slight adjustment.
There's plenty of room for adjustment. There's plenty of room to adding things, but I do want to see, like, should we stifle innovation for the sake of somebody? And I'm not saying I don't want them to make money, because I'm not like anti making money or wealth or anything. But if one person holds on to something for 75 years, the odds are you're killing any possible progression in order to make us all, better off in that
I
regard.
think for art, it's reasonable to do that.
You're not going to be able to differentiate. That's the problem.
Yeah, you need to work out a good definition, but that's legal stuff.
I mean, patents are going to be treated differently than IP, which can be treated differently than trademark. But I do think that if you give people the ability to basically, even if they wanted to copy one for one everything, but they can't put official next to it, people will probably buy the official if it's more beneficial.
I'm not too sure about that.
Why not?
But because I just don't think it works like that.
Why not?
Because I think as long as it has the name, most people will not understand the difference.
There's the personal responsibility problem of being a retard all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to support something that is inferior, knock yourself out.
Unfortunately, most people are retards.
I know, but here's the thing. Wheel of Time, season 1 and 2, and soon to be season 3, or whenever soon becomes soon.
Please no.
It's already greenlit as far as we know.
Fuck.
So, yeah. But if that's the case, that's might as well be unofficial Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
It's going to do as well as it's going to do, but is it going to do as good as somebody coming out with making even an unofficial but legit Wheel of Time story? No, it's not going to do nearly as good, even if it has the official licensing. If you're doing it wrong, it's going to do worse than the one that does it right.
Yeah,
Inherently.
I get that. But if you're only doing it very slightly wrong,
then that's the thing. If you're making a product that's only slightly wrong and somebody's making it slightly right, which one's going to sell better? The slightly right, 9 times out of 10.
Why do we care about which one sells better? Rather than
that's how you drive innovation. The person has to be compensated.
Yeah, but you don't do that with art specifically.
Why not?
Because it's not innovative.
Well, there's lots of ways to push innovation. What would not
If
be
I make a
innovative about it?
story about a certain thing, that's not innovation. That's just a new story.
Yeah, and if I see your story and I don't find it innovative, but I decide to take your story and make it innovative and do things that you didn't do, and people prefer my version over you, I've already succeeded in the market.
Sure, but you
Which
don't
means
need your
that
copyright stuff for that.
Huh?
You don't need the whole copyright change that you want for that,
Why not?
because you're doing stuff that I didn't do.
No, I'm taking what you did and making it better.
Right, but
It's the Pokemon to
I'm
Temtem
saying it's not
concept.
better because
Why are you
you
saying it's not
miss the point of what I'm doing by changing it into your way.
What did I miss the point of what you were doing? What
Because,
is the
well,
point?
maybe I specifically did something the way I did, right? And you say, "Oh, I don't like that. I'm making it better," but maybe it's not. See,
Possibly.
it's
But
because
if that's the case,
art.
then I'm out of money then. That's my fault.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily work that way.
but it does. I'm not literally physically taking stuff from you.
No, I'm not saying you do.
I'm saying if you make something a specific way for a specific reason, and I either ignore that or I build upon it, but not thinking about it clearly, and I do something else, if people still prefer yours over mine, I will lose money.
Okay, sure.
You'll make more money. But if somebody comes along like myself and sees what you're doing, but then I decide to do it better than you, well, then you either have to do it better than me for the following thing, or you revamp what you're doing currently to do it better than me. That's the whole point of the drive of innovation. You want to make more than me. That's what an economy drive is.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that innovation though.
Well, innovation is what you're doing in your game to like make up something. If you have a particular mechanic that no other game has ever used, well, you have that mechanic. You're going to make money because that mechanic might be fun for people, and they play that because they find it fun. You've learned to simplify an advanced thing to the point where anybody can access it, but
Sure.
also possibly having it very advanced instead of just simplified, also in the same game. It's like saying if you make a game
But
that's
now we're
single player,
talking about game mechanics.
that's all innovation has to be.
Yeah, but
It's art.
stories.
But even in
are
your
different.
stories, well, no, because stories that can add extra characters that come in and hit the
Yeah, but that's
storyline
not
from different angles.
innovation if you add an extra character.
What do you define innovation as?
As creating new stuff.
What is a new character?
It's not stuff.
It's literally new stuff. Because a new character brings a whole, okay, think of it this way. Reverse engineer Wheel of Time. So we know that the whole butterfly effect happens. When one event happens, it ripples out and causes other things to happen the way they do.
Sure.
So if you
Yeah.
remove one of those things, that ripple doesn't happen the same way, and all those
Mhm.
plot points disappear, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now add in more plot points that add ripples into it and change the field. Is that
Mhm.
different?
Yeah.
Okay. Does the story still work? Sure, that's the
Probably
assumption.
not, but
No, the assumption is sure.
okay, sure.
Because if it doesn't, again, that person failed and loses a bunch of money, and you're still the top dog.
Okay.
That's how
sure.
that works. It's you can be innovative and not be successful, but innovation is what drives people because they can say, I can take care of my family or just myself if it's just me. I can take care of myself and or my family or anybody I want to take
Yeah,
care
yeah.
of by doing this thing and beating out the competition. That's literally what a business is. So you go out and
Okay,
make that
sure.
thing. So if that's the case, then you could potentially make the best thing, not necessarily be the most innovative, but you make the most innovative thing that works as of so far. But then somebody comes down on the road 5 years later and says, Eureka, I just thought of a way to make that even better. And then they go out and they make that thing you made, but they made it better. Well, now you're like, well, shoot, how can I make that even better than that? And it just keeps compounding upon itself. Because some people aren't going to want to increase their work and labor, but maybe you made plenty of money and you're just like, I don't have to make any more money. Or maybe you want to go in a different entirely different industry. I don't know. Like you could buy somebody else's company and then continue what they're doing because that's what you wanted to do. Like there's lots of ways available, but the whole point is that the sky's the limit, and in this case, not even the sky because we could go to outer space now. So it's just kind of like, what is your goal? What do you want to aim for? Do you want to Iron Age all of corporate economics? Because if we Iron Age all of the corporate economics, we could blow them out of the water. We could collapse, and like we're already doing that in video games. We're collapsing entire studios and developments
Sure.
just by not buying stuff. Now imagine the entire economy that way. I buy what I want, but I also want what's best for me and mine. I want the best product, but I also want something that's not going to harm my family and myself. But I also want it for cheaper than more expensive. But I'm willing to pay more expensive for something that'll last longer than something cheap that will just break and I have to buy another one, break, buy another one, break, buy another one. Because if the Nintendo Switch just kept breaking every 5 seconds,
Wow, that's
no
a bit
one would
extreme, though, right?
hyperbolic language. Come on. But if that happened,
Yeah,
no
but you
one
have
would buy
to
the
keep
Switch.
your
and it would collapse.
hypotheticals slightly realistic, at least.
Okay, Xbox Red Ring of Death.
Hmm?
The Xbox Red Ring of Death. Xbox
Okay.
lost money on the Xbox 360, but they cemented their legacy with it. And then they went the wrong direction.
Okay, yeah.
So if that happened, if they had just kept going the trajectory of the Xbox 360, they would have been fine. They didn't. They suffered. Now they're way, way behind PlayStation. But PlayStation's a terrible company and does a bunch of stuff that nobody likes. So if you beat
So
them,
it all evens out in the end, right?
well, that's the thing is, could somebody make a gaming console now? Just like
Probably,
we're gonna make a Sega Genesis 2 out of the blue, and then it plays everything like all this other stuff. If that's going to happen, well, if you can come out of nowhere with that, but you're not censoring things, you're allowing pretty much everything, and you might even have your own exclusives, you could come out of nowhere and sideswipe everybody out of the blue. Like imagine
Sure,
having a
yeah.
console game that allows computer stuff. So the next Xbox or the Nintendo Switch or the next PlayStation.
No, surely that must be illegal.
Well, not if you change the laws. And that's the point. You want the best quality product. But you also don't want to go in debt because if you're getting stuck in lawsuits, because the bigger company can just force you into a lawsuit indefinitely and crush you. So you remove the ability for that to happen, and you could potentially have some crazy cool stuff.
Right.
Or
when are you going to run for office?
I hate politicians, decomment. But even if I did get in office, I couldn't do anything because you'd have to have literally every district all over the country to do this, and then you have to convince the entire world to do this, and good luck with that. But if you could at least do it in our area, because America's the place where all the big companies are. Companies come from China over here, coming from all of Asia, different
just
places.
have to succeed in America because that's where all the culture.
It basically will spread out to everywhere else. Like even Shad in Australia is like, whatever happens in America affects me more than us voting here locally is going to affect me, because what we do in America ripples everywhere else in the world because we're the big power.
Yep.
So if we do it here, the rest of the world's going to have to fix. And once they fix, everything works out for pretty much everybody in that regard. It's going to take a lot to getting used to, but there's a lot of things you'd have to put in place to kind of make it work.
Yeah.
But it requires,
of course, that does require that you also don't go down, right?
Well, yes, me being assassinated would not be part of the plan.
No, I mean the United States in general.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's gonna self-implode anyway. We're not gonna beat the Romans in the empire tier anytime soon. We're not even an empire. That's the funny part.
Yep.
We're not even gonna get to 500 years as a republic, and we're gonna crash and burn well before that. But it's because people won't try to innovate or allow the free market, and everyone's like, oh well, if you don't have the government doing all this stuff for you, it's like, just tell me you want to lick the government's boot. That's all you're wanting to do. You will not sit down and think about this on your own and come up, like, brainstorming is the best way to do this. Like if I'm having this conversation with you and I combined came up with a better system than either of us had individually.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the whole.
Quick update. Veilguard went down another 1,000 players since last mention.
We get it. They're drowning. They're drowning themselves. But the point being is that if people are just like, I'm going to let government do everything, it's like, well, you don't need government to do everything. Government's not meant, at least American government specifically, is not meant to do everything. It's meant to protect the people. That's what it's meant to do. It's not meant to tell the people what they can and can't do. It's meant to stop other people from overtaking other people. It's that simple. Now, if Europe learned this and did like a U.S. Constitution kind of thing, and you guys learn from America, you guys would be in a much better position, and you would not be the people that are just setting targets for anybody nearby Russia, or anybody who's south of you guys that might be sending people to invade you.
What? No, sure, they would
Never would do that. But you'd also have better internet.
They're very well. I think that's just a case of him personally.
What, he needs a better economy to make more money? Oh wait, America. But either way, the point
Shouldn't
being
even
is that
be that expensive. Though, right?
It's not as simple as I just run for office and then I just take over everything. That's not going to do that.
No, but it is one step towards.
I mean, if we change to a monarchical system and I become the monarch, I can definitely make sure it happens. But that's never going to happen.
Depends. Is it an absolute monarchy or
well,
merely...
if you want things to get done, yes, it has to be.
Right.
But
so
I would say I'm not going to go into the monarchical system I have in mind.
Just go dictatorship, right? That's easy.
No, dictator is not that. It has a different meaning now than it did back in Roman times. But beside the point, I would rather do a constitutional monarchy where basically the constitution binds the monarch from doing things that are bad.
Sure.
That's how I would rather do it, because everything else currently, democracy is crap. But that's because stupid people outnumber the non-stupid people.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of reality. And then the non-stupid people disagree with each other on a lot of things. It's just the nature of humanity. But point being, it's not going to be as simple just we'll do it. We'll start tomorrow and be done by the end of the week. It's not. It's going to take decades probably to shift everything that way. But if you start and you finish, then guess what? You can actually have a decent positive impact on everybody involved. And whatever happens in America is going to affect everywhere else for everyone else's benefit, except for those who are trying to use slavery and all the bad means of cheap economics. But it's going to have to happen somewhere. Regardless, back to comments. If you want to leave a comment about Dragon Age, Veilguard, or one of our concepts of IP laws and stuff like that to prevent Pokemon and Nintendo overbearing or Sony censorship and blah, 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 any of that kind of stuff, leave your thoughts down below. You guys are awesome for hanging out with us for 3 hours. We do get sidetracked from time to time, but that's just what we do, and hopefully that's why you like watching. And one of these days, if I can get my Streamlabs to work on the YouTube without either being too fast or too slow, or it just works the way my computer says it's supposed to work, I will be playing a lot of games. I just cannot figure out how to work it. So if you know how to work it, let me know, because I am really sad that I cannot do this, because I have thousands of games I would love to play, but I cannot play them because I cannot figure out how to get YouTube to accept my Streamlabs quality. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to, chill out with us and do all that fun stuff. If you want to hear more from us or what of that, and we'll have different people on at different times. Just me and Sage most of the time, because everybody else is going through stuff right now. So once everybody's schedules free up a bit more, then hopefully we can have the gang back together and maybe have some new additions and stuff. I have ideas for the channel, but unfortunately it requires more than just me. I know, crazy. I am not as smart as I wish I was. So editors, if you would like to help, by all means. I'd like to grow, and that's the fastest way to grow. So you can always just hit me up through YouTube. Twitter is probably the X is probably the easiest way to reach out, because I don't have limitations on that. Just question.
I'll just call it Twitter, right? Regardless.
Yeah, Twitter X. Twixer.
Maybe.
Maybe. But anyway, yeah, if you want to reach out that way, I also have, I think it's the Watt questioners at Gmail, I believe is our email. You can also reach out that way directly. Greatly help. If you are a streamer and you have experience with Streamlabs and you know what's causing the incompatibility issues or whatever, and you would be willing to help, just at least get me set up, that would be fantastic. I don't know why it doesn't just work out of the box, but it's YouTube's fault because on my end it works great. I don't understand how the settings work. I am not that intelligent when it comes to streaming, but I know how to play games.
Blame YouTube. Yes,
it's probably YouTube's fault anyway. Or it could be Streamlabs. I don't know, but I figured just plug and play would be the way to go. But apparently that's not the case. So, but yeah, you could reach out and help. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, share the video if you think anybody else would enjoy this content. Try to add some catharsis, but also some humor and some fun stuff, and bring you some fun news. We'll be getting back to some Tolkien stuff in the near future. I don't know when or where. I got a lot going on my plate, but I would like to get everybody in the Council of the Light back in for that. So prayers for Matt. He's still
I'm not
having some
sure
problems.
most people in the Council of Light will want to be there for that, to be honest.
Sure they will. We've been having fun with those ones. It's not Rings of Power.
Fair enough.
It's the old stuff. And we did find a gem. We did find a gem.
True.
Maybe there's another one hidden there somewhere. And by the time we get through it, maybe they'll have another wave of them for us. But yeah, if you guys want to hear anything about like Tolkien or Wheel of Time or those kind of books or worlds entirely, or if you want to hear about any particular TV, movie, or something, I don't typically delve into those too much because we got a lot of people to do them. But hey, if you're interested in hearing our thoughts, let us know. Also, games. I got games, man. I got games for days. If you're interested in seeing me play a game or get my reaction,
however, he needs to first get his stream.
Yeah, I need my Streamlabs fixed. So if you could help me out with that, that'd be great. But if you do that, I will play lots of games because I play games on a nightly basis, and me being able to stream them with you is so much better than just doing it by myself. Even though I'll probably be the only one in the stream because I'm not that popular. But maybe if you want to watch it, that'll change. But yeah, see whatever we want to go in that route, but also keep in contact with the cultural news that's going around right now. There's so much going on, and I don't want it to move that fast. But anyway, let us know, and thanks, guys. And remember, walk in the light, my friends.
Farewell.